Hey, what up, everybody? Tales from the Archives. You have to let us know. Can everybody hear everybody okay? We're doing something different this time. I don't like to call this stuff out, but just in case, we got some craziness behind the scenes. Appreciate everybody being patient. So I guess as a sound check and an introduction, if we could go around. I know, Grayson, I'm stealing your usual thing here. But
yeah,
so that's my bad. Grayson's our fearless leader. He's over here.
Not
so
yes, hello everybody. Me testing. Hi.
Will.
I'm kidding. It works.
It
works. We're having fun, guys.
April Fools.
Oh my gosh.
Oh shoot! Did you hear me? Did you hear me go? Oh no! I
audibly
whispered it.
Gosh.
Oh man.
How about you? Who's this guy?
Me?
Yeah. Who's this guy?
Oh, I'm Seth from Beyond the Dune Sea.
Look at that.
Oh, it's throwing me off because Connor is on the right and Seth is on the left, but like you guys are like not that way to each other, so that threw me off big time. But yeah.
Might be y'all.
That's okay.
So
yeah.
Daniel brought up a good point right there.
There we go. I said Grayson's a little quiet. I can bring Grayson up. That's why we need you guys. That's why we need you guys.
Gabby says she can't hear Will or
Yep.
or Grayson.
That's why it's all right. It's all right. We'll remedy that.
We're a bit loud, apparently.
We're always loud.
Yeah, it's my curse. Love me for my flaws.
So how's everybody? We're excited about the last command. Then everybody, I hope.
I hope.
There we go. Let me know. You chat, just keep me updated if I need to adjust anybody.
Is that better?
And we will hopefully get that solved. Like I said, we're running a little bit of a different system here today for Tales of the Archives. So there's always some tinkering in the Falcon, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Connor,
Gabby, how we sound now?
What's up, Grayson?
I was about to say, would you be willing to be the chat monitor? Feel free to.
Yes.
Okay.
That's another thing, guys. I apologize. This isn't me just us being selfish over here, but we can only pull up people from the Beyond the Dune Sea chat. But please go, if you're in our chat, go show the other guys some love too.
All you need to do is if you're listening to this in the past, thanks for being here. If not, just go over to Beyond the Dune Sea. Make sure you're subbed. I don't really care because I want to see your comments.
Oh my
gosh. Okay.
Okay. Well, my goodness, this was a ride to get here. But I think we're here. Like I said, chat, just keep us updated. If you need anybody turned up a little bit, we can do that. But Grayson, lead us in. Well, I don't know. We usually do this, right? Talk about our impressions.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and preface. I didn't get through chapter 15, but don't worry, the other guys are gonna spot me. Had a very busy weekend. I know I'm a failure.
He could have just hid that from everybody.
I probably could have, but oh my gosh, camera focus. That's a me thing. No, it happens to me. It's just my camera being dumb. Hello, everybody. Yes, the last command. Part 1, the first 15 chapters. How are people feeling, both in the chat and in here?
Well, I really want to bring up Daniel before we even start.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about something else. Get out of here with that.
I feel so bad. Cantina Talk just super chatted on my chat. Hey, buddy, I appreciate you. We can't pull it up.
So Heart, Cantina Talk, you rock. Thank you.
Wow.
Getting blacklisted over here.
Yeah.
Covering my eyes.
Sorry.
It's fine.
It is what it is. Have to get rid of you.
It is what it is.
Yep.
What are you gonna do with me?
Grayson, what do you think of the first 15 chapters?
This went a little faster than I thought it did, and I'm a little pleased. I will say the only thing that I'm really just slogging through is the Talon card chapters. I really am just not vibing with those. But other than that, it's been pretty great.
I'm glad somebody said it. Okay, how about Will?
There are 3 books in the Thrawn trilogy. The first one is great. The second one is fine. This is the best one.
Okay. Oh, well, there you go. That's very quick and concise. I love it.
There you go.
Grayson has a little bit of an echo. Okay. No worries.
Anything
Seth, what about you?
So, I'm finally happy.
Yeah! Yes! Let's go!
It only
Is
took
that-
30 books.
It took, but I think that this is definitely everything's firing on all cylinders because we don't have to introduce any more characters. We now get these characters so they can just do stuff.
Could just do stuff.
They can just do stuff. My man Han still ain't doing much.
Nothing,
And I'm
dude.
just like, it's fine. It is what it is. So,
Yep.
yeah, but it's cool. I have new characters that I can like. I don't have to like Han Solo. So, yeah, there we go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What a review.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm having fun. There is I guess my only complaint is I don't like that he refers to Leia as Organa Solo
Like every time.
all the time. That's like my only thing is like just call her Leia.
They only do that in the Mara Jade chapters, or people that would know her as that. If you read it from like Han or Luke's perspective, they don't call her Organa Solo.
Yeah.
I got you.
Well, why?
Because that's what Mara knows her as, man. Connor, what did you think?
I guess I'm gonna be the unpopular one here. This starts so strong,
It does.
but I don't know. I'm kind of like with you with the Talon card stuff. I think the Talon card stuff is kind of weak.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I thought we already got our chess pieces where they needed to be. I don't know. It just feels like more of the same to me, I guess, if that makes sense.
Card's gonna card.
Yeah.
Maybe again, that could just be me, but I just found myself just listening, like reading to read, basically. Like, okay, let's get to the next chapter. And I hate that. I want to be in the moment. I want to enjoy it. The stuff I really like the stuff with Luke. That's fun. The stuff with Leia is okay. I finally get Seth's criticism that Han is boring in this, I think.
So boring.
Dude,
But
this book, I
yeah.
think this book specifically does him thus far the absolute dirtiest. I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
mm.
So
Put a cork in it, goldenrod.
as we go, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm happy to get started with the chapter summaries. Are there any comments that we need to bring up before?
I think Zeus here said that Grayson had a bit of an echo. Did we solve that?
Yeah.
Does Grayson not have an echo anymore?
Let me know.
Move that right.
The God of Thunder. Wait, that's Thor.
Yeah, let us know. But yeah, I think we're good unless everybody has anything else. Here we got one to bring up from Waffy here. It says, "Hello there. Just wanted to bring attention to the amazing audiobook versions of these 3 books. First audiobook I ever heard and fell in love with, the format, the voice acting, music, and effects." I hope that you're talking about our friend, Seth's friend, Seth's best friend.
You knock that off.
Mark Thompson's audiobooks, because they are fantastic. He does a really good job.
He's a nice man.
We need them to reunite.
Yeah.
By the way, just a little thing here for you to stay towards the end. There's gonna be a little tease for something kind of related to this. But you'll see. No giveaway this time, but I think we might be having one next time. We try to stay faithful to it, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, chapter. Oh yeah, pull up the pic. Let it focus. There you go. That's Mark Thompson.
Yeah.
That's Thrawn and literally everybody else in this book. Okay, chapter 1. We start off with Thrawn and his task force attacking various systems with Sabaoth's battle meditation to pull reinforcements from the specific New Republic base on Ord Pardron. As Thrawn himself attacks the Ukio system. I didn't listen, I read. Sabaoth orders Pelion to clone make a clone using a specific sample that is there on Tantus. We don't really know what that is. Using cloaked cruisers, Thrawn synchronizes turbolaser blasts to attack the planet to minimize asset damage and make it look like essentially turbolaser blasts are going through a shield. Ukio surrenders the planet. Sabaoth senses Leia and the twins on one of the faint attack planets on Filv. We switch over to the Falcon with Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO dealing with some fighters along with Rogue Squadron before they manage to get out of Dodge, escape the planet. Han feels something is off about the forces attacking the planet. Leia feels something is off. I put the wrong name there, and tells Han about her encounter with the Force over Endor. More on that later. Thrawn expresses his anger towards Sabaoth for diverting the attack on Filv. This recurs often through the book. They argue blame before Thrawn promises he will acquire the Jedi, with Sabaoth giving one last chance for him to do so. Pelion completely forgets what Sabaoth orders him regarding the cloning. He puts in the order and he forgets. So we get a little bit of all perspectives, kind of similar to Dark Force Rising. Really cool Prime Thrawn strategy stuff. I'm a sucker for the Sabaoth Thrawn collision, them being at odds and their different goals and whatnot. Pretty strong chapter, I would say.
So I just have to say that I listened to the first chapter on audiobook, and so did I have disappointment when I went into the book to see that Yukio was not spelled like Yu-Gi-Oh, and it was spelled just with 4 letters, in fact. So because the whole time I'm like, it's time to duel, but no, it turns out it's Yukio. So
what's funny?
That was a bummer.
Isn't there a character later on that's like mentioned one time, like named Devlin? And isn't that someone who Mark Thompson voiced? I remember noticing
Mark Thompson voices Duke Devlin in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, so I just had to bring that up. But otherwise, yeah. Any other thoughts on what are everybody feeling? The opening salvo.
The best part is I'm honestly a huge fan of Sabaoth and like the dynamic that he introduces in our villains. And so I feel like with my big problem with Heir to the Empire, like that first book was like after a certain point, he's just gone. And then in Dark Force Rising, he's kind of, we're doing the stuff on Jomark, but now it's like, okay, he's back integrated in the Empire and he has taken control over the Tantive storehouse. So that little, like, I actually really enjoy like how afraid Pelion is of Sabaoth. And so that little tease in the beginning where he's like, he keeps saying, he's like, oh yeah, I'll make sure I'm going to tell Thrawn, like, Sabaoth's not going to get away with this. And then we get the very end and he's just like, he feels like he has something he has to tell Thrawn and he just can't remember. And he's like, it's like that clip I think it's from like 2.5 Men. It's just like, if it wasn't important, you wouldn't have forgotten it. And it's like, like this is major thing. That's kind of what it felt like. And so, it's cool seeing. I mean, at this point, like Thrawn is really wreaking havoc in the galaxy, which is pretty cool. William.
So, I have a question. I must have missed this, or maybe I forgot where it happened. Where does Sabaoth officially announce himself as the heir to the Empire? Did that happen in Heir?
He did it in the last book.
It was in the last book? I just don't remember him actually saying that.
He just takes control.
Okay.
Right? He did that at the end of the last book, didn't he?
I don't know if he actually ever calls himself.
I'm doing this.
Because I'll admit, I read the ending of Dark Force like kind of hastily.
Yeah. No,
it's did I just forget him doing that? Because I don't remember that.
It's like the very end of the book. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Sabaoth shows up and he's just like, I want my twin babies,
Yeah.
So
I'll admit I'm on the opposite end, and this is maybe why I wasn't so hot on this first half as you, Grayson, where I thought him and Thrawn's dynamic just got real old real quick. Because I'm like, okay, every time they interact, he's like just like, I want my kids, and he's like, but actually, I'm going to do, yes, of course, Sabaoth. I will do exactly as you ask, but really, it's because I got my own plan going on. I'm like, how many scenes do we need of this?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the same thing. I felt like where he would walk in, he'd be crazy. Pelion would be like, boy, he crazy. And then Thrawn would be like, but actually, I planned on him being crazy. And then Pelion would be like, wow, Thrawn really knows what he's doing, but like, this is interesting. And then Sabaoth has calmed down and leaves, and then rinse and repeat in a few chapters. Does anybody else feel that way?
No, I mean, when you say that, I definitely understand. there's one chapter that it feels a little bit different, where like it's like kind of towards the very end of our coverage today, but where I was like, oh, Thrawn like actually kind of like dismantles all of Sabaoth's like argument, and it felt a little better. But yeah, I can see that criticism of it being
Okay.
like.
Okay. I just wondered if I was the only one who felt that way, because I'm like, I really liked Sabaoth in the first two, and I still do like him, of course. Like, he's a great character, but I just felt I really wanted him to have more to do. I love the beginning of this book, though, when he's playing Pelion. I think that's a really fun interaction where he's like, hey, you're going to go, contact Wayland and tell him to find, this sample. Boy, I wonder what that's going to be. And that's all really fun. And then you get to hear, in Pelion's head what he's thinking, and like, oh, I swear there's something I wanted to tell Thrawn. That's all great. I really like that. It's just when he starts the mental sparring, just, I don't know, starts to grade it a little bit. But
I'm glad that the back half of this book is definitely setting up the fact that he's not going to be with them. He'll be on Wayland, which I'm very excited about. That is the stuff that I am the most excited about. And so I'm kind of like, the hooks are in me now. I'm ready to go. But Will, you have said nothing, so say something.
Yeah. Sorry. I love Return of the Jedi. There are some parts in Return of the Jedi that are like, I could speed through it. That's how it kind of is with this book, which is why I think I enjoy it so much, because Return of the Jedi is my favorite of the original trilogy. There's slow stuff, and then there's like really banger stuff, a lot of which comes at the end. But yeah, I think for me, Connor, to your point, the Card Thrawn stuff, I know they're annoyed with each other, but I also agree with the fact that I am annoyed reading their relationship. Like they're going back and forth of like trying to be the smart like English major at each other, of Thrawn sitting like this the entire time and speaking at him. They're both speaking at each other, but they're not listening to each other. Which I get the point that they're not listening to each other, and that's ultimately why they fail, is twice the pride, double the fall. But like reading it, you're like, okay, like I get it. They hate each other. Like, let's move on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It also is just funny to think that like Sabaoth is just kind of like sitting in the ship at all times and is just kind of like bumming around. He's like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, right. Dude, during one of the last chapters that we read, and he just like screams like, "Grab Admiral Thrawn!" And jumps. I'm like, there's like a jump scare for me. I'm like, brother, I thought you were back on Wayland. What happened? Like, did I miss something? You're just chilling in a bunk in the back. Yeah,
he's just got like his little action figures. He's just like, this is Leia's one twin. This is the other. They will be mine.
Yeah.
It's a good tee up. I will say I was like when I first started, I was like kind of having a hard time following what was going on with all the ships, and then it quickly fell into place, which I think this book has some really good, like even better later on, like layered reveals of like something will happen, and then you're like, oh man, and then it'll switch to another perspective, and then it'll kind of cross over you to be like, oh, okay, cool. There's a specific section we'll get to, but why don't we move on to chapter 2?
Hey, before you do that, I wanna pull up a chat.
Please
if I can here. From Waffy, has anyone felt that Sabaoth is the basis for that boss in Fallen Order, Malicos?
100,000%, dude.
I heard. So, reason I want to bring this up is, one, that's a great point, but two, I heard that Ponkrell was another inspiration. Sabaoth was an inspiration for Ponkrell. Just like how he acts, because I've not read Outbound Flight or like anything, but I guess that's how he acted as a Jedi, was just no regard for life.
I mean,
some I read, I don't know how true that is when we're talking about like Jedi Master Sabaoth, not the clone, but I thought that was interesting.
That makes sense. Also considering like Sabaoth was we know from the last book was like he made himself Jedi Master or something. It was
right,
like
he was self-appointed.
Yeah, and I was like, that feels. I can see the Ponkrell similarities. I do want to read Outbound Flight at some point because I'm very intrigued in the whole lore of that. But
yeah,
that's cool.
What's up, Seth?
Who here has remembers the 4th season of Batman the Animated Series when the animation changed?
That's when it became
I don't remember them
the
by
new
season,
adventures
but I've
of
probably
Batman
seen
and
it.
Robin.
Sure.
Yeah.
4th season of Batman the Animated Series. The episode's called World Finest, where Superman shows up and Lex Luthor and the Joker team up. This is reminding me a lot of Lex Luthor and the Joker in the sense that Thrawn is Lex Luthor, and he's like, it's okay. I can wield you, and I can just point you in the direction I need you to. But eventually Thrawn's going to realize, oh, I can't lasso this lightning.
Gotcha.
Literally.
Yeah.
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 All right.
That's a great movie, by the way. I had it on VHS. Watched it a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so good.
It is.
Not as good as Return of the Joker, but that's okay. Anyway, chapter 2. Luke investigates the crystalline city of Callius on the planet Burchest. I actually wrote this wrong, but yes, that is correct. It's Callius something on Burchest. For the New Republic for potential Imperial clone transfers. He's on the hunt for these clones. He runs into Talon Card, who is dropping off supplies for the local governor that he has an arranged deal with. Luke reveals that the clones are being made as in little as 20 days, which is like unheard of. They end up tracking a carrier that has the clones, confirming they are being transferred through the city of Callius. Luke and Card make a deal for information on the Imperial's motives. Even though Card is kind of hesitant to work with the New Republic, he's like, we'll pay you, man. They split with Luke following the Imperial's hyperspace vector, and the governor of Callius watches them, reporting Luke's whereabouts to Thrawn, and those guys never show up again. Or at least thus far. Yeah, it's a fun little chapter. Fun little, getting this, like, I'm glad that we just immediately get, like, Luke just kind of outdoing some stuff. That's fun.
Did this remind anyone else of Obi-Wan during Attack of the Clones, going on his quest, being a detective, skulking in alleyways with Talon Card? I thought this was cool.
It's pretty cool. I was not expecting, like, we don't really get a whole lot of Luke Card, so at first I thought there was going to be a little bit more of a prolonged team up, but it's kind of more of like a, oh hey,
yeah,
all right, bye. But it's fun, especially the way they describe this city of being this like red-orange crystal city. I looked it up in the comic, and it was like actually exactly how I envisioned it, which I think the comic does a really good job of most of the time. Just because sometimes I'm like, what does that actually look like in like officially? And so yeah, like it was a cool little. I don't know, like maybe think of like that planet Christophsis, and then combined with like Jeddah. And they're like, them kind of walking through the city, like tracking it down. But yeah, this little intro stuff with Luke is fun. What about y'all, Seth and Will?
Sorry, I was trying to pull it up so I can go through it.
So I think it's cool. I think it is neat to see Luke doing boots on the ground stuff. That he's not. I like that he's getting his hands a little dirty.
Yeah.
This is a real. Can I bring up something that they're gonna like? It is like a blink and you miss it moment about the clones.
Yeah,
sure.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're gonna bring it up in your notes later, but like, I thought it was interesting that they're doing the flash training.
Yep.
And that's what happens to Finn, and that's how they're able to train the First Order kids so fast.
Oh, that's
cool. Is that like they're kidnapped as children and they do that like flash training or whatever. So I think that's really interesting that they're making them so fast. They're even making them faster than them cloners on Camino.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
cool.
Cloners.
It's cool that they like you can still see how this fits in with the prequels, or like how Zahn was able to fit it in with the prequels, because they're like talking about the old clone masters couldn't do this, and like there's a part where they're like saying how the clone masters like ways has been kind of lost, and in my head, even though it's completely not canon to this timeline, I'm kind of like, oh, it's kind of, well, maybe like in Bad Batch when Tapoka City is completely ransacked, like that's why all that stuff was lost. I mean, it's different timelines, and
it's fun to really piece them together.
Right.
I think that is really cool. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, the layering of the clone stuff is cool, like the little reveals and
So bounce off Seth real quick. The boots on the ground stuff with Luke. I love that these books don't make him Superman. I think that that's the fear in some of the new movies. Like if they use him again. But like with the sequels and with Mando and stuff, it's like either he is Superman or people are upset that he's not. You know what I mean? But I liked how these portray him as he's he's cunning, he's boots on the ground, he's just he's a ninja who can move stuff with his mind. Like that's as far as it goes. And
there's a certain moment later on that was like, when I was reading it, I was like, man, this is really creative. We'll get to it pretty shortly here. Will, any thoughts? Don't want to.
I think the biggest thing with the clone stuff for me was knowing that this came before the prequels. And this is not necessarily a critique on the book or anything. It's just, at any point, do you think George went through this? Because obviously he had his ideas of clones and what was going to happen in his own prequels, but this was before that. So at any point, do you think he read this of like, oh, I don't like that, and I don't want to say that this influenced George in any way. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, there is a thing of like, oh, I have this idea, and then you read something or you listen to something, and then it influences what you do later on.
Seth, what do you got to say?
Well, weren't the Clone Wars, like, wasn't that always shifting? Because I swear when I was a kid, like, the Clone Wars were originally going to be, that was like the Jedi Mandalorian stuff, and that the Jedi were the ones that might have been playing around with the cloning at that point to be able to fight the numbers of the Mandalorians and stuff like that. So I think that was kind of always in flux what exactly the Clone Wars were.
Oh, it definitely was. I do think reading this, because I'd be curious to know like what those original drafts had, or even what George was thinking. I do know it was like very shifty, but like there's things when they're talking later on about like the Sparty cylinders and being in these like concentric circles, almost like an arena and things. I'm like that sounds just like Camino, just like on a different setting, right? And I'm like, they're talking about how quickly they can make them. Like I think they have them highlighted here, but they're talking about like 20 days is insane, but they're talking like normally it would take them years, right, to really make and I was like, that's still kind of in line with what they do in the prequels, to have like a proper clone. It took them, like 3 to 5 years at least. And so especially when we get to the later part of the Clone Wars. So I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised if George pulled from this. I know we read a Star Wars Insider on the show a few months ago. It was a 1995 interview with George Lucas, and he had just started to actually draft the prequels. And so these books were out. I don't remember, when did Last Command come out?
94.
Was that,
I think it was 92,
was that
93, 94.
Yeah. So, okay. So these books were definitely out. And I mean, Coruscant was invented in these books and it's heavily featured in the prequels. So my assumption is that George wrote that line in A New Hope, having no idea what that meant. Just a nice little bit of world building. Like he needed a war to mention because these guys are knights. Right. Clone Wars. That sounds cool. Moving on. And then the beautiful thing about Star Wars then is then you can then kind of build and off of that, and that line can retroactively have a lot of weight. But I would venture a guess that George never really decided on what this meant until he goes to draft the prequels. That's my guess. Yeah. Personally.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, they bring up this stuff with like, oh, Luke doesn't get married and stuff like that. And it's obviously like, yeah, I don't think he would have taken it in that direction. But part of me is curious. I'm like, did he, like, obviously he knows about him, but like, did he ever read them or read any of the extraneous stuff? Like, he has like a foreword in Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which came out before these books even. Talking about like how he permitted Alan Dean Foster, and obviously he permitted all of this stuff, but I guess we'll never know.
He doesn't like Mara Jade, so he had to have at least known that.
George, please, she's so cool. Also, does he really not like Mara Jade, or was it just for that like robot chicken Seth Green bit?
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought that was played up a little more than he actually felt. I'm sure
he doesn't care for her, maybe.
When George is kicking that guy out of the room, you could hear Seth Green laughing behind the camera.
Yeah.
Obviously it was a joke for sure.
Yeah.
Like that little skit. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I'll catch up with the chat for a second here. So Void here says, finished the novel a few months ago. Was planning on reading all the post ROTJ EU books. Man, that's going to be a feat. Do you know what's next to read? Well, maybe we might just have to stay tuned for
like next for us to read,
well,
or
I was
next
about to
for
say,
him to read?
I think he's asking next in the timeline. Technically,
next in the timeline. Okay.
Next in the timeline is technically one of the X-Wing books. It's Isard's Revenge, but if you want to go for the proper kind of like sequel to this, that's the Jedi Academy trilogy by Kevin J. Anderson.
I gotcha.
So yeah, yeah. You wanna keep pulling up the chat here real quick.
So Gabby about book says I did get a little giddy when they said another Clone Wars could start. Yeah, I think that's so you can tell it's so clear that Zahn had his own like perfect vision of what this was going to be, you know? And I think that's pretty I mean, I guess he said as much to us when we talked to him at ICCC is that he had his own idea. He could only be so vague in the books. And then like when the time came for George to actually reveal what was going on, he was surprised that the clones were, you know, good guys. So I think that's pretty cool to see how, and like Grayson said, I think this all still fits pretty well, right? Like it all kind
decently
of
well.
It could slot in really well with canon right now, I think. I love how Luke is having to act like a proper Jedi in public and having to meet people's expectations of how Jedi acted during the Republic. Yeah, I think that's cool too. We saw a lot of that during Dark Force. So I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, it's cool.
So
it's a cool template. And hopefully we get more Jedi plot twists. We do. Let's go on to chapter 3. We hop over to my girl Mara Jade, who has woken up in the Imperial Palace medical wing. She finds Ghent there as well, the Slicer, and he's hanging out. She's caught up on most of the situation from him and Winter, and given a residential suite plus pretty much all of her gear, a contact from Card to hopefully kind of get her out of there, and manages to find a replacement blaster for her sleeve in one of the libraries in this like hidden book. I believe it's like some random planet that doesn't matter. She wonders about how Thrawn has gained new soldiers and crew so fast to attack so many worlds, but doesn't really think much of it. We go over to Thrawn, who shuts down the idea of a full attack on Coruscant. Instead, Thrawn sends an intelligent commando team, or plans to send one, to capture Leia and neutralize Mara Jade covertly on Coruscant, due to the risk that Mara might know about Tantus, but they're not really sure. They head toward the planet Podaris, hoping to find Luke based on the decoy from Callius, or the city of Callius, I should say. Dude, the setup for Mara being on Coruscant is sick. This is like some of my favorite stuff in this book.
It's really fun. Yeah.
Especially because I think like every chapter opens with her like having that same vision over and over and over and over again. And it's like, it's just, I'm like, it just really hammers in the like why she wants to kill Luke so bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, later we'll talk about it. Leia even calls that out. Like, hey, I don't think this is your idea. Seth.
I just felt like at the end of the last one, there was a lot of talking over each other. So I'm sorry that I'm sorry.
It's half the fun.
Yeah, I guess so. That I'm just trying to be a good co-host.
Seth, you're the best co-host, all right?
Co-host
Speak
with the
your
most.
piece.
Yeah. Allegedly. That I just think it's neat that she's just being a straight shooter with everybody. That she just like, hey, I'm gonna kill Luke Skywalker.
She almost can't help it too.
Yeah,
like
it's
even
just
in,
kind of
when
hey,
you get
I gotta do this.
When you get those passages in the later chapters, when she's talking to Leia, it's like you hear like in her head, she's like, I don't know why I'm saying this. Why am I telling you about this?
But it's so like, it just reminds me of like, hey, I'm gonna be a Jedi like my father. You know, like it's like that's her path right now, and she has to do it. Just reminds me a lot. Like she is the Luke of these stories, if you will. Yeah. That like she's the one following her destiny and discovering herself.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also fun that like she's back in the place where where she was when Palpatine died. I think they mentioned that in this book, or maybe in one of the other books. But like, she was in the Imperial Palace, or at least in the Imperial City when it happened. And the moment when she's like, because she lost her blaster in the last one, and I was like, yeah, well, that thing's pretty much over. And then she was like, actually, I know that there is in every single one of these libraries in this one specific book, there are backup I was like, that's
yeah.
I was like, you know what? Heck yeah, I don't care. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's some payoff for that, like that the Imperial Palace being the seat of the New Republic. Like that's got connections, and that Thrawn can use that, because I can't believe I didn't consider that when they were talking about it in the other two. But someone like Thrawn would definitely use that to his advantage, and I like how that comes into play in this first half. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, even down like later on, she's like uses some of the side passages and stuff that like where Palpatine's like hidden. It's really cool.
What do you think, Will? What do you think?
Not to be that guy, I know I've done it for every single one of these books, but in the comics, the panel after she's going through and like pulling out the books from the library, there's a shot of her standing, and it's now I'm dressed. And I know it's the same thing as in the book, but that panel is so cool because she has her blaster on, and her being a character that I kind of wanted to bring this up earlier when Connor was talking about Luke, the way that they are so different. And it's funny referring to Mara Jade as the Luke of this book. The quote that keeps coming to mind for me throughout all of these books is war does not make one great. Mara Jade is so great because of battle and war. Like, she is so cool. She is bred from it. And obviously that quote doesn't necessarily, it's different as if like a war, it's what you do with it, and it's not starting war, and it's obviously not violence, and all of that does not make one great. But Mara Jade is so cool because of it, and it's like, yeah, I know that quote, I know what it means, Yoda, but like, if you knew Mara Jade, yeah.
You might change your mind.
Yes, Seth.
That's fine.
I know we're not all the way through the book yet, but do you guys think she could take Ahsoka?
Prime Ahsoka?
At full potential?
Right now, no. Maybe later on.
Yeah.
I think Prime Ahsoka could take Jason Solo, and Jason Solo knocks off Mara Jade later on. So I don't know.
Okay,
like you guys were doing on your stream with your Star Wars PEMDAS.
Dude, one of these days we just need to hop in here, throw in some characters from these books or something, and just, you know what,
and just start yelling at each other about them.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, man. We're not yelling at each other enough. No, I think
I love me some Darth Caedus.
Dude, there's a chapter we'll get on later, and it was like one of the most beautiful chapters I've read in this book.
You think Gabby
says Ventress
stop
could take her.
No way.
Do you think The thing is,
maybe when she's all like her, like at this point, but I mean, she's gonna get through it.
I was about to say, the big thing is like when Mara reestablishes, I feel like, her connection with the Force, which we still don't fully understand kind of the timeline of like why it comes and
goes. I know,
goes.
right? Because I feel like she's really using it in this first half. I'm like, weren't you struggling hard at the end of the last book?
Yeah, I'm curious, Seth, Will, do you know like why she's maybe not like they explain a line of like why it was coming and going, but it still didn't really it was in Dark Force Rising when like the dreams.
I thought it's because her spirit was in turmoil. And so like it's kind of coming and going because she doesn't know exactly what she wants because she's being haunted. I thought that was it.
That makes sense. I think I do think she mentions that about the dreams, and I think because the shell is starting to like crack a little bit, it's starting to like she's not as kind of like she's like, yeah, I guess I want to kill Luke Skywalker. Do I? Like,
well,
yeah.
I agree with Seth. I think there's that quote from Sam Witwer where he's talking about how Qui-Gon's Force Ghost works, and how at the beginning of A New Hope, Luke can only hear Obi-Wan's voice, and then he like vaguely sees Obi-Wan on like, you must go to Dagobah, and then in Return of the Jedi, Sam Witwer goes, he's sitting there and having a cup of coffee with him. I think that it's like how much you let that door open, and Mara Jade is so, which I mean, if you want to take it into account of like well, then how come somebody like a Darth Vader who is like on such a like blood death path of like rage and murder, and Kylo Ren especially too, of like how can their door be so open to use the Force like that? But I guess it's different for everybody, and that's what makes the Force fun. But
yeah, no, you make an excellent point there, and it just reminded me why we haven't actually like why she's not using it as much. Because obviously in the first book, like we only get like two or three chapters from her perspective, and of course most of it they're on Merkur. The only time we know she really uses the Force in the first book is to find Luke when he's out.
To find Luke.
Yeah, and so Card is like, that's how he's like, I'm trying to figure out why. Then in the next book we get a little bit more, and she does explain in the beginning she's starting to use it more, and that's why the dreams are starting to happen more. And so she doesn't want those dreams. It's obviously been 5 years since the Emperor is dead. She's like I don't want to deal with that anymore. And now, because she's using it so much, like I think about kind of like Seer in Fallen Order. She cuts herself off from the Force because like she's like, I don't like, I think because she didn't want to deal with like the dark side temptation. I think it's kind of like that. Even like Ram Koda in The Force Unleashed, he tells Starkiller, he's like, I've cut myself off from the Force, boy. Like he's like, I can't see such things, until later on he opens it up again. But yeah, Will.
The cutting yourself off from the Force thing, Luke Skywalker does that in The Last Jedi.
Yep.
But what I was thinking was, there's a interview with Timothy Zahn from I think like 2 years ago, and it's when the Ahsoka stuff was starting to come out and roll out, and they asked him about like how Mara Jade came to be, and he said a lot of her character was Han and Leia are a certain way, where Han's the scoundrel and Leia is like this upstanding princess. And he wanted to flip that for Mara and Luke, where like Luke is he's in the interview, he says Luke is still the naive farm boy, but Mara is more of like the Han character, which is interesting when you think of Zahn. And I'm going to keep saying it because it was such a great point, where you guys referenced Mara Jade as the Luke of these books. Luke has the same progression with the Force throughout A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, where in Return of the Jedi, he's Force choking people at the beginning, and he's just using the Force however he wants. So I think it's cool that when you think of that point with Mara, of like, if she is the Luke of these books, for her, like we were talking about with her having the visions and her using the Force, it parallels Luke extremely well going into this third book, like Luke does for Return of the Jedi. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
I guess the way I look at like her Force abilities coming back is that I almost wonder if she, with being on Merkur and after the fall of the Empire, almost subconsciously, like maybe she didn't intentionally cut herself off from the Force, because everybody we've referenced so far, they did that on purpose, like Luke and TLJ, Ram Koda, we mentioned him, like forget the other people we just mentioned, but everybody's cutting themselves off from the Force intentionally. It sounds like these demons, these ghosts in her head have like, it's almost like a defense mechanism subconsciously. She's cut herself off from the Force, but the Force cosmically, if you will, so it's like the one in Mara, if you will, and then like the cosmic Force, if you will, is leading her to Luke. And that's what starts to, all right, the rusty gears are turning, and they slowly get more and more. Yeah. But it required that first sort of interaction with Luke, because not because it's Luke, but because like that's her, the boogeyman in her head. Yeah. It's like, okay, if you can overcome this, then
and even down to well, I'm just gonna pass it to you in a second, but like I was gonna say, like even down to the point she says the reason she teamed up with Card is because his base was on Merkur, and she knew when she was hanging on to that base most of the time there wasn't even a risk of it. So it was like she got so used to not being a part of it, but then of course the cosmic Force, the living Force, brought Luke to her, and they're not on Merkur anymore, so it was a type of Force and destiny, if you will. But yeah, go ahead, Will.
I think, Seth, you made this point last time when we were talking about Dark Force Rising. Mara's like Force visions in the comics, it's very funny, not to talk about the comics again, but it's very funny where like she'll just be sitting somewhere, and the next panel it'll be like this giant thought bubble will be like, you must kill Luke Skywalker, and it's like she freaks out, but it's very Snoke Kylo for all of these. And I think it's interesting too, because the more Kylo is trying to be, or Snoke is trying to mess with Kylo and like continuing to tap in. I know the Emperor's not really around at this point, even though he isn't around at this point to continue tapping into Mara's psyche. But it's not until Kylo interacts with Rey that it starts to switch, and then it's, oh, let the past die, and then he's Ben Solo at the end. And it's kind of the same here with Mara, and I'm not going to make any spoilers for the end of the book, but it continues as the book goes on with the way Mara interacts with Luke, as the same way that Kylo interacts with, or Ben Solo interacts with Rey. So, and I know Snoke is actually Palpatine come the end, but which is real. Sorry, spoilers.
Your favorite movie.
Which is even funnier thinking about this happening to Mara with Palpatine and then it happening to Kylo through Snoke with Palpatine. So, but,
Will, I have a question, just because I obviously and I don't know this. Is Mara in Dark Empire at all, or is she just like not even? Okay.
Dude, I was thinking that exact same thing while reading this. So I'm like, man, that would be so tough for her.
Like that's what I was. I feel like that would make that story so much better.
Right? Yes, that's exactly what I thought. While the further we got in here, and that dream kept recurring, I'm like, man, I wonder how she feels about somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah.
And I know.
Yes, Jar Jar Jargon is. I did know this. That Dark Empire was written at the same time, so that makes sense that she's not in it.
Do they address it later on?
Really didn't like it either. Like,
well, Zahn even references it. Like, I know that in some stories, she throws an offhand comment at Luke about like, "Oh, do you remember when you fell to the dark side?" Or at least I never.
She like makes fun of him about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, they were the same, written at the same time, but I don't know. Like, I think it would have been so cool to have that progression of like, for her to be one of the people to actually face Palpatine, and like that be a progression, a character arc. I mean, kind of like Kylo Ren, where eventually he face turns and he faces Palpatine, which really was Snoke, but for her to wrestle with that of like how much Palpatine's emotional bloodstain, as they call it later on, which it was such a cool description. We'll get to it a little bit later. I was like, okay, but yeah, I want to read Dark Empire at some point, but it is when people say, there was Will, you posted a clip earlier this week of Zahn just spitting some knowledge on people, talking about how the way Star Wars is, like, even Legends was not always consistent, and that was one of those prime examples of like, hey, here's these two things that directly clash.
Oh yeah, Seth's been looking for an excuse to throw this out there.
Whoa, I want to see that. Put up as a camera.
Hold on, let me see. I could probably cut to Seth, but I don't know if you'll be able to hear everybody. So I'm going to flash it up on screen, and then we'll cut back. Ready? See this?
Oh my gosh!
What is it?
It's Han versus the Otter.
Yep.
The Otter.
This
Who the heck is the Otter?
That everyone wants back so bad. This is my man Han fighting an otter.
A giant otter.
Dude,
I can't even. I can't.
What is the Otter?
Like,
what is that?
I miss the EU too, but just for every good EU story, there's like 6 of these.
Yep.
So,
I thought about making
anytime someone tries to come up in here, I just flash I'm just gonna flash this.
Dude,
he's been waiting. He's literally
had this on my side of the desk all like
a month.
There's
this blows my mind. This got through, and this is a thing.
There's a
Han Solo fisticuffing and an otter.
What is the otter? I want to know. What is this?
You'll learn when you're older.
It was an image. It was a Star Wars Galaxy card.
From what? What story?
From Star Wars Galaxy Magazine number 10 depicts Han Solo versus a Solonian.
Solonian, yeah, those are otter people. Those are canon.
Yeah, Han's fighting an otter. That's exactly what I just described.
I love Grace. And they're like, dude, of course, you've never heard of the otter people? Like, what do you?
Oh,
what
yeah,
do you
yeah.
Well, I only know this because I gave one of my players a Solonian glaive in my campaign, and I realized that they are canon. They are otter people. But there's
I
no,
will say,
throw that out there, Seth.
Well, they don't look this otter, though. That's the thing.
they
Is
don't.
that if you look at an actual like official image or whatever, they don't look like this. Like this just looks like one of our otters wearing a necklace.
Oh
It's just
yeah,
a big otter.
yeah. The real ones they look way. Are they also looking it up now? Because
They kind of look like what's the?
Oh!
Sorry,
Someone knows the story. Han Solo captured by his evil cousin and forced to fight an otter queen. Absolutely insane. Wow, thanks, Sonny. It's like,
Oh, Sonny, what's up? That's crazy.
had no idea.
In Legends, or sorry, in canon, they're kind of more like otter cat people. Like they look way more Star Warsy. I wish I could share them on screen, but oh well.
You should probably hit the other people that say hi.
Yeah. Hey, let's pull up the chat before we blitz into the next chapters. We've been yapping for a long time.
So Sarge says Mara got a lot of cool character development and alliances. What's alliances?
The Mara Jade book that I have over here. Do you mean?
I know the one.
Do you mean Allegiance? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the three main Mara.
Quinlan says, "Have you guys heard of Shadows of Mindor? It's the first EU book after Return of the Jedi." Yes, I have. I love the cover for that book.
Shadows of Mindor technically is after Truce at Bakura, which takes place immediately. So Truce at Bakura takes place right after Return of the Jedi. But Shadows of Mindor is what they call a postmodern New Republic era book. It was written by Matthew Stover, and it actually came out in 2008, so it mentions a lot of stuff from the Clone Wars and Ahsoka and things like that. It's a book that I really want to read. But yeah, I've got that on the shelf back there.
Look at that! Look at those shelves.
I got the Kenobi first edition in today. It's pretty epic.
Dude, I got my hardback of Plagueis the other day.
Do you have it on hand? I want to see it before I hop into chapter 4.
I don't. It's downstairs. I'm sorry, but it's cool though.
That's sick.
Very exciting.
Anyway, chapter 4, we're hopping back to Luke. On Podaris, Luke is tailed by an Imperial agent, and through some shenanigans, he outplays the tail in the Imperial ambush with the heavy Ysalamiri, using his saber to kind of climb out to the outer wall. He's kind of forced to the outer wall. That's this big windshield. Cuts a little gash in it and slides down almost like a railing. Super cool, creative use of his lightsaber. We switch over to Thrawn, who pulls all of the troopers except the clones from the planet, at least before he makes it to his ship, hoping to convince Luke and R2 that this is a transfer point for the clones, so to create more bait. They use the freighter that Luke is flying to leave Podaris, and while under attack from the Chimera, using a covert shroud technique, they self-destruct the freighter, using the debris as cover from the tractor beams that are locked on, and Luke blitzes his way using his X-Wing to escape to hyperspace. And one of the fuel cells or power cells is damaged, so Luke realizes that Honegger is actually close by, and he hasn't been there yet, so he's going to go visit it. Thrawn, in a mirror to when Luke escapes an heir to the Empire, goes to deal with one of the ensigns that failed at tractor beaming Luke. But this one actually tried to create a solution pretty quickly, even though that still failed. And Thrawn is like, hey, you thought quick on your feet, and you shouldn't be punished even if that failed too. You did all you could. I'm promoting you to lieutenant, and your first task is to figure out how to counter this in case they use it again. Pelion says something pretty nice that this is the moment that realizes that these people would die for Thrawn, and this is the beginning of the end of the old empire and the beginning of the new empire, which is also a good parallel to what Obi-Wan says to Luke in not the last of the old Jedi, the first of the new. It's pretty very I just picked up on that now, but that's a really cool little parallel.
I was just trying to find this. The Covert Shroud Gambit is what that move is called that Luke does. And Thrawn's like, brother, nobody's figured out this one. So, props for trying.
Yeah. It reminded me of the first thing that I thought of. Obviously, it's not a ship within a ship, but was like in Skeleton Crew when they shed the outer hull of
That's
the.
yes, that is exactly what I thought too. Is very similar, like when they're getting eaten by the Toy Story 3 monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My headcanon is like maybe they pulled like that. I don't remember what they say in Skeleton Crew it was used for, but it's supposed to be used for a very similar thing of like, okay, if they get into a tight situation, they can shed the outer hull and blitz off.
I think it was just to hide the fact that it was an AT-AT ship.
True. Yeah.
I mean, it had other benefits, but that was the main thing.
The Onyx Cinder, dude. That ship is so cool.
It is sick. The Onyx Cinder.
Yeah. But yeah, this part was slick. Seeing Luke, like you said, like he's not Superman. He's not this, just paragon of just I am peak Jedi. He still gets in these cornered situations, and he thinks quick on his feet. And I truly, when I was like, what is he about to do right now? And then he's like, pulls out the saber, kind of lets the sun hit the eye line of the speeders that are coming in that way. Perfectly kind of puts the little gash, flips over it, and kind of. I looked up the comic panel for this too, and it's really cool. Although it's a little bit more aggressive, where like he has like the full lightsaber like jabbed into the thing, as opposed to it being kind of more like a grazing thing. But it was just a really cool, fun Luke chapter.
What I like how this book characterizes Luke's abilities is that he's going to win just about any one-on-one, right? Like that's any one-on-one, but he starts to get surrounded in those type of scenarios. And again, he's not going to be that panel from, I forget is it Vader Down, where he's like, all I'm surrounded by are fear and dead men, where he's just going to, force repulse or do something crazy and kill everybody. No, like he's going to be skilled, but at the same time,
he could be overwhelmed.
He could be overwhelmed. Yeah. And I like that. It makes him so much more interesting, because you always hear that, right? It's an actual literary thing, the Superman problem, right? Where it's what do you do when you introduce a character like that? And I really like how grounded these books make Luke. And that's really cool. I hope that if we, fingers crossed, get more Luke in the future, that this is the type of Luke we get, because it's so much more interesting to me.
Yeah. I think you get to have moments of like in Last Jedi or Mandalorian season 2, where like those are moments where I think makes sense to let loose with Luke. But like generally, I mean, when you think about like, I think if we were to get a long form running series, like I'd want it to be more like kind of Clone Wars, where it's like, Anakin and Obi-Wan aren't just God, like they get in situations. Like I think about that episode where they have to team up with Count Dooku, like, and they're having to like be creative.
Dude.
That's good stuff.
That's my favorite. That is one of my favorite tropes in all of fiction. I love it. I love it when the hero.
Go check out our Assassin's Creed tier list where we talk a little bit about that.
Dude, so great. It's so great.
Seth, Will, you like Luke Skywalker?
No. Yeah. No, what I was going to say was kind of to my point earlier about the war does not make one great. When it comes to Luke, so much of what makes Luke great is when he doesn't have his lightsaber ignited, especially in the EU. Is it cool that when he does, he is Luke Skywalker? And I say that as a adjective and not just him as a character. No, he is Luke Skywalker in it all through Legends, where he's slicing and dicing just like his father before him, and he's good at it. But that Luke can be the mediator. I think there were more examples of this in Dark Force Rising than there were in at least of what we've seen in this book. But he's such a good mediator of like, Connor, you made this point. We were talking about Sabaoth, where Luke's kind of like, well, we could give this guy a chance. You know what I mean? That's what's great about Luke Skywalker. And I'll take one of the, just off the top of the mind, one of my favorite, and Grayson, I know you guys are probably going to say the same thing, where Luke is in Battlefront 2 and he says it's a choice. Like, no, we have a choice to be better. I will take one of those for every 10 Luke in The Mandalorian, just slicing droids.
Yes.
Any day of the week.
100%. Me too.
There's a ratio.
I'll take one. Yeah. There's a reason why that's so cool. It's because there's characters like Mace Windu. He talks a lot, and it's annoying when he talks a lot, but then you see him dice up battle droids, or like in Gendy where he's just punching battle droids. And you're like, okay, I guess this guy is cool. Luke is the opposite of like, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about, and then he knows how to use a lightsaber. Right. It's like that's what's great about Luke Skywalker.
Like the prime example is the opening of Return of the Jedi, where like 9/10 of the opening of Jabba is not him. It's not him he doesn't pull out his lightsaber till the end. It's him walking. I mean, obviously he's like force choking the guards, but he doesn't kill them. It's just to get in the door to talk to Jabba, and he's like, "Hey, I just want Han." Like, and he's fun to look at, to watch him interact. But then it's the end. It's just like, "All right, this is your last chance, Jabba. Like, free us or die. I need my homies." Then that's when you get the lightsaber. And then it's the same ramping up later on. It's just like, it's him tagging along and sneaking on Endor, and he doesn't pull out the lightsaber until he takes out the speeders. And then he's like, I've got to surrender to Vader. And again, doesn't pull out the lightsaber until the end, and then throws away the lightsaber. It's those crescendos of like, forever, like, 80% of the time, it's Luke just trying to talk his way through things or have creative solutions. So, when it's like, of course, the whole Luke Mando thing, it's like, I mean, it would have been cool if it was like regular stormtroopers or something. Yeah, but it doesn't hit as hard because it's like, okay, we get to let loose a little bit because it's droids, and it's just been a while since we've seen that because we don't really get that in the sequels. So that's kind of the ratio there.
Oh, I didn't know if we were going to talk about that comment or not.
I just pulled it up because it's just echoing what everybody's saying here.
Very true. Grayson, I'm happy you brought up the beginning of Return of the Jedi, because one of my favorite things about the beginning of Return of the Jedi, and then for stuff like in these books where Luke is, I'm going to keep calling him the mediator. At the beginning of Return of the Jedi, he's like very accusatory and threatening, and you will bring Captain Solo and the Wookiee to me. And he pulls out a blaster and like all of this. He's ready to like, okay, it's all ultimatum with Luke. But then come the end of like him on the bridge in Endor and talking to Vader. And then even obviously the best example is at the end with the Emperor and Vader of throwing away this lightsaber. But like that progression, and then seeing that him in real time learning the benefits of like listening for communicating is incredible to see then throughout these books in the EU and Legends. And I know we brought up The Last Jedi and then versus Mando season 2 when he pops up. I think what's great about seeing him in Book of Boba Fett is like that's, I think, the closest we've ever seen him to this Luke Skywalker.
Dude, 100% agree. I 100% agree. Like, get back up. You always get back up. That type of those type of lines, they hit me every time. It's like, that's the Luke Skywalker line right there.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's not the same as Return of the Jedi, and it's not even the same as the end. But I think when you see Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi looking out over the Force Ghosts, and then it's that Luke is the Luke we see in the Book of Boba Fett. That Luke at the end is the Luke we see in these books. And it's not the Luke we see in The Last Jedi until the very end, when he like obviously kisses Leia and says goodbye and all of that stuff with the Force projection. But like that is, I was stoked. I didn't cry when I saw Mando season 2. I was up and stoked. I cried when R2 rolled up. That was when I started to tear up. But Book of Boba Fett was like, I was gone the whole time of like talking about Yoda and that's Luke Skywalker to me. And like I said, I'll take one of all of those Book of Boba Fett's to every 10 Mando season 2 endings.
My man spitting facts up there. Nothing else I could say. So you ready to move on to chapter 5? Oh, sorry.
Yes. That's why we need a Luke Skywalker or sequel, whatever animated show, please. Thank you. Yes, chapter 5.
Yes, come on.
Celebration, please. I'm begging you. Also, just wanted to say it's cool that Thrawn did the whole parallel. I thought he was going to get angry again, and it was cool to see that moment. Anyway, chapter 5.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
Hopping over to Leia, Mom Mothma, Akbar, and a completely dead silent and irrelevant Borsk Phalia that hopefully we will never see again, rest in piss bozo, discuss the unknown shield penetrating method the Empire's using. Bel Iblis is absent, having been placed out in the front lines of the Empire's assault. My man Garmajan Cheese, sorry. Leia abruptly realizes she is about to give birth. 10 hours later of labor, she gives birth to Jason and Jaina with Han by her side, realizing their strong connection to each other through the Force, stronger than she will ever share or Han will. We over to Rogue Squadron, who engages in a losing battle. Bel Iblis is leading the way, and his tactical strategy gets the New Republic forces out. Guys, this chapter, bro, the Leia giving birth stuff, absolute peak, so good, dude. Oh my gosh, the way this is written is masterful.
You know what's missing though?
What's that?
Ooh, It's the only thing that was missing.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie.
You got emotional.
My kiddo, as she approaches her birthday, which is insane to me. Like this took me back, like right there, like that. And I just want to read one. I'm not going to go too hard on it, but just this one right here, where she names Jaina and says, Leia nodded. Jaina, she repeated. Somehow the names they decided on had never sounded quite the same as they did right now. Yeah. And I'm like, man, that is so true. Like that is.
Wait, who is is that the Force Ghost of Anakin, Ben, and Yoda? Bro.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's pretty great.
It's so cool. And it blows the even though it's cool, the new panel of them all with Kylo Ren as a baby. And like Han has a beard and he's like, oh, we all won, I guess, didn't we? And then obviously it's foreshadowing awful stuff. But and also Lando's just wearing his costume that he wore or suit that he wore in Empire. It's just the blue. I was like, all right, Lando, you have so much drip and you're gonna reuse some suits. But that is one of the best. If I could find that as a poster, I would hang it up.
This moment in the book truly I am not a father. But like I was reading this and I was just getting super. I'm not getting. There are like I can tell when writing is doing its job when I'm actually like getting teary eyed. And this like I just remember I was locked into reading this, not for any of the tension or anything, just because I was like, this is just so beautiful. And this is one of those moments that I'm like, man, I wish we had gotten something like this on screen. Something like that. Like it's just the way it is described, Leia's connection to them, like it's just so unique and it's so refreshing. And I thought there was going to be some like because they were setting up the break-in to the court, like the Imperial Palace, and I thought this was going to happen when she was giving birth, and that's kind of why I was also reading. And then I was like, oh, it didn't. They actually finally Han and Leia finally get a moment, and I will say this is probably where like. You know, Han being there for Leia is just it's some of the best stuff that's been in these three books with Han feeling like actually a continuation of his character, and not just shove it, Goldenrod. I know, you know. But Seth, what did you think
of this?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it's cool that Han's there for Leia, but I mean, it's just like now he's just going to be in full dad mode, and it's just kind of like. Okay, that's cool.
What's wrong with being a full dad mode?
There's
I was going to say, that's
being
awesome.
In full dad mode, Connor. But at the same time, like you haven't done much. Now you're really not going to be doing much because you're.
Or maybe he's going to be doing a ton because now he has, now he knows what he has to lose.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But no, it was very cool, and I think it's like one of those things that's like, like when you read it, I think that what you guys were kind of describing, or at least what I felt was when you read it, you do feel the gravity of this moment, that it's like Star Wars is now being changed forever, that this new generation is going to help shape everything going forward because Jason and Jaina have a huge role to play.
Yeah.
So I think that just, again, when you read that, I think Zahn knew what he was doing. that it's just like it does almost feel a little bit like a passing of the torch, if you will.
There's a specific thing that I want to mention that I would love to ask Zahn about. Let me flip back to it real quick.
We'll add it to the list.
Yeah, I know. I just want to I want to present it to you guys as well about like if he knew kind of the path of them. Let me see if I highlighted it really quick. They're talking about here it is, I think right here. Let's see. They're kind of talking about the future and like the impact they'll make on the galaxy, and I'll find it later. It's fine. But I was like, did Zahn have an intention of what would happen to Jason and Jaina? Because like he didn't write any of those New Jedi Order or Legacy of the Force books, which is sorry guys, I didn't know why my camera does whack things. He didn't write any of those, and I know that's kind of a big critique. Is like in the book Invincible, I believe, is the one where, or maybe it's Sacrifice, where Jaina kills Jason after he falls to the dark side. Like, did he have any intention or say in that? And it's like he didn't write that book. Same thing with like when Mara is killed by Jason. Like he didn't get to kill off his own character, which kind of sucks. But I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that little tangent. Chapter 6.
Chapter 6.
Perfect. We switch over to Talon Card. Yay. He arrives he arrives at the Chazwa system. I don't know. On the wild card, he happens to run into an old contact, Samuel Gillespie, the most non-Star Wars sounding name of all time, who
Ben Carver up in here.
Who retired on Yukio but was forced to flee. He might have some data on the attack itself, which the New Republic could buy. 2 Imperial Lancer frigates come in. Card and Gillespie break off, planning to meet on Trogan in 8 days. The frigates end up going after Gillespie, but each party deals with the Lancers before Card tells Samuel to bring some other mutual smugglers because they're gonna want to have to hear what he says. Thrawn coordinates with the commandos that will sneak onto Coruscant and dismisses them. They prep an attack on Ord Mantell, as well as a force of dreadnoughts to acquire Hephredium and other materials from Lando's supply on Naklon because Lando cannot catch a break. It's a fine chapter. It's all right.
I don't have much to say about that. I mean, it's all right. I don't even get what he's doing in this book.
I don't either, dude. This was the first chapter. I was like, oh, surely we're setting up that like there's gonna be more with Cart, and it's like so far.
It feels remarkably similar to what Han was doing in Heir to the Empire, but there's no. I don't see the end game. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree. We'll move on. Chapter 7.
Okay.
Back to the homie Luke. He arrives at Honoghr and is greeted by the Nogri. He is brought to a river valley on the planet, bustling with bright plants near a river, and what is dubbed the future of the Nogri people, at least by the Nogri. Kabarak and another Nogri named Ovkavam greet him and let him stay until he can replace his damaged power cells that night. Later, the Nogri tell Luke that a Star Destroyer has arrived for repairs for 2 days, so Luke is stuck there. He has a potential vision of the future of Leia and the twins and others on Coruscant, and he's like, I gotta get there. But then he kind of calms himself down, and he's like, you know what? It's not worth the risk. It's not worth the Nogri people like possibly slaving and dying over to get the Star Destroyer. I'll wait for the 2 days. That should be fine. Lando's not even on Coruscant. Lando reels from the Imperial raid on Naklon with the crawler brutally damaged, and they have 20 days before the sun side of the planet reaches and pretty much kills everybody in Nomad City. Garmbel Iblis arrives from a previous distress signal after the attack, agreeing to evac most of the people except for a few to stay behind, and brings Lando to Coruscant to help hopefully bring some ships back to get Nomad City back in commission because those materials are important. We'll guess what? Lando's going to Coruscant now. I don't really have much to say about this chapter other than I liked the little interactions that he has with the Nogri, because that was something that I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. And it's fun to see him kind of he's also the heir to Vader. But yes, Seth.
I just think it would have been a cool opportunity to call him Lord Vader.
Right. Literally what I was going to say.
Yeah. And it just didn't happen. And I was just disappointed that it was like, and to have him acknowledge it and be like, yeah, please don't. And then they could call him whatever. But I think it'd be cool if they insisted on calling him that. William, you're up.
We've talked about the knowledge that the Nogri have in past books of like what they know of outside of their planet and their species of the other parts of the galaxy. But initially I thought they were going to be pissed that Luke was there because he's the one who kills Vader. Like if he wasn't there, like the way the galaxy or like the way the galaxy interprets it is Luke walked into a room with the Emperor and Vader, and then he walked out and they were both dead. Like I know, and I know we talked about that transmission and stuff of Luke being the legend, and then I became a legend. Go ahead, Grayson.
3PO tells them in the previous book, he tells them what happened, and so does Leia, saying that that Luke, that Vader killed Palpatine, and he fell to and so he came to the light side, and so they don't perceive that. They think, oh, Vader did a good thing.
Oh, okay, I guess that's true. Yeah.
I just thought this
really doesn't matter.
This whole interaction was
3PO does matter.
It was kind of a missed opportunity. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Not a lot happened.
Because as soon as this part happens where he says, this is Luke Skywalker, son of the Lord Darth Vader, brother of Leia Organa Solo, I'm like, yo, okay.
I'm curious. I'm like, does
go down?
Is because they don't call him a special thing. Like Leia is the Malari Oosh.
I was just why is she the Malari Oosh, but Luke's not?
There has to be more lore. Yeah, no, literally, he's like the Lisan Garib.
I just picture Leia blasts off after the last book, and you have the matriarch who's like, "Oh, that girl is our last hope," and then Kabarak's like, "No."
Oh, you just
another Malari Oosh.
You just said it. I mean, they place a high importance on matriarchs, so that's probably why Leia is so important, and not Luke.
You think so?
I think so. I think
there's men on their council too.
Yeah.
It does. I don't know that there are a matriarchal society, are they?
I don't know.
No, because don't they mouth off during the, they tell Leia not to speak? Like when they discover the droid from the last book?
I don't know. They just don't take Luke seriously that much in this one. They're just like, oh, hey, son of Lord Darth Vader. Yeah, Lady Vader told us not to deal with you, so go away. Or like whatever they say. It's like, hey, you can't endanger your life. Will.
Something I thought would have been cool if it was filled in between the lines is because so much of this book specifically is about Leia being pregnant, is if they had the interest in Leia being the Maraush or whatever it is, because she is pregnant. Where that's why they have so much interest in her.
Because she carries the legacy.
She's carrying the twins.
I mean,
I thought that would have been cool. But that's also like, that's just me filling in gaps. Like there's no explanation or basis for that. It's just what's different between Luke and Leia at this point, other than their gender. It's Leia is also carrying the twins, and Sabayoth. So much of this book is trying to get to Leia because of the twins. So it would be interesting if that's what their basis would be too.
It doesn't really say, unfortunately. I looked up Malari Oosh on Wikipedia, and it says, was Honegrin for daughter of the Savior? The Savior in question was Darth Vader, whom the Nogri people revered years earlier. Okay, so it doesn't even say anything like of it being like a special thing because she's the daughter. They're like, yeah, what if he had a daughter? That'd be crazy.
That'd be crazy. Hey, Kabarak, what if Darth Vader had a daughter? Wouldn't that be nuts?
He has like fan fiction. He was like, it's real. Yeah. No, it is weird. I kind of missed opportunity. I agree with you. I didn't even think about that. Any other thoughts before we
move on?
Perfect.
Keep it rolling.
Chapter 8. Leia is nursing the twins and speaks with Han. Who tells her that Lando is still negotiating for an assault frigate to help with Nomad City. Leia speaks a little bit with Winter, inquiring why why Winter is investigating the Old Alliance archives, and it's because she thinks that Mara is an Imperial spy, but doesn't really have any concrete evidence, only other than that Mara earlier knows, because they have a conversation earlier, I forgot to mention this, that Mara knew Winter's code name being the
Targeter or something?
The Targeter, yeah. Which was only one of her very brief names on a specific planet. And chapter 15, is that what you're talking about, Seth? Sorry, anyway.
Yeah, we just had a chat. Sorry, we're good.
Okay,
keep
perfect. So Leia speaks to Mara herself, who pretty quickly, or Mara reveals pretty quickly that she used to be an Imperial, specifically the Emperor's Hand, and yeah, she wants to kill Luke. She gives some info on Thrawn strategies as well, kind of talking about how psychoanalytical he is and looking at cultures. Leia thinks that Mara's intent to kill Luke is based on the emotional bleed point from Endor pervasing her mind, because Leia, of course, went through that, and so she thinks, well, you can hear the Emperor from anywhere in the galaxy, so maybe that's what you're hearing. Mara's like, nah, and then she later detects that there is a break-in very quickly after, and tries to chase the Imperials, but is snuck up behind a mysterious person held at blaster point. Go to chapter.
Good stuff.
This is cool. I liked the end of this. I'm really excited to see where this vision stuff goes. Like, if it was just Palpatine during some of his last moments, like, just put that out there, like, all right, you know, I'm gonna throw this into Mara's head, and maybe I can get some revenge beyond the grave.
It's like Winter Soldier programming, but like the Force, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you can hear me anywhere. Okay. So
yeah,
I just think it's weird to think about as he's falling to his death. Yeah.
I mean, what's weirder, that or beaming over to Exegol?
They're both weird.
I was going to ask, this was something I was thinking about during the entire read through that we've been talking about, and I've been waiting to get to here for the last command for the end of this. If they were to adapt the Thrawn trilogy into some sort of canon, would Palpatine coming back at some point in Legends, like he does, like 3 times in Legends or something like that, would that happening, if they were to adapt that before he returns in the Rise of Skywalker, make the sequels better or worse than if he keeps coming back, if he had come back previously?
Hold on,
He's asking that if somehow Palpatine returned before somehow Palpatine returned.
So
that is 100% the best way.
He comes back multiple times.
Well,
or
at
least
like
once.
a Dark Empire or something into the canon.
I think that makes the sequels worse.
Yeah.
Really?
Because I think that there is a world where that reveal is kind of cool. The problem is not Palpatine returns. The problem is somehow Palpatine returns.
Yeah, Fortnite. Like, you play it?
Like, if they build that up, if there's like little teases in TFA and then and TLJ, all right, you know, then we could start to cook. But I think that's thrown even farther out the window. If he comes back like 15 years after, it's like, why are you guys surprised?
Yeah,
this guy's done this before.
See, the only way I think that would be okay is if Palpatine comes back, but it's only to like a specific person, and like
sure,
and like they get, and so like there. Spoilers for Darth Maul Shadowhunter briefly. The whole setup of that book is Maul taking out the people to reveal about the Trade Federation invasion, so that doesn't get out. And this is addressed in Plagueis. And so it's like, oh, it's cool because he does kill some Jedi before the Phantom Menace, and it's like some lower level B-grade Jedi, but it makes it fun because it's like, oh my gosh, he did that, he silenced it. So like, if there was a way where like Palpatine did come back and like then maybe a character like snuffed it out, but they have to sacrifice themselves in the process, and so the greater galaxy doesn't know, and so it delays that even further, maybe. But yeah, like the whole somehow Palpatine thing, like people would not treat that line so out of whack if they had just put that awesome speech from Fortnite in the movie. If that had been like the cold open right after Kylo gets to Exegol, and then
that would have been the ending of TLJ. If that's the closer.
Yeah. I mean, sure, that would have been awesome. That would have been sick. But yeah, go ahead, Will. Sorry.
Anyway,
My question is, if Luke had already defeated Palpatine once and then knew that there was nothing he could do, would that help him? Would that help justify his banishing of himself on Octo? Or would that make it worse? Like if he had already defeated and he's like, there's nothing I can do. And that kind of set into, I had to take myself away. Because, and Grayson, I'm happy you brought it up of there only being one person to know. I was wondering if it was like a Luke Skywalker knew situation of like he was the only one who knew, and that's why he had to take himself away. Once again, I know I'm adding in stuff like Leia being pregnant for the Nogri, but I'm just
that brings up the whole like Vader in the comics knowing about Exegol thing of like why wouldn't he like if like which obviously it would be so corny for him to be like, by the way, Luke, there's a planet where Palpatine actually can clone himself. You need to go check it out. Bye.
Hey, guess what? Your hand's there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but maybe he could have appeared to him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, of course, yeah, because now his Force Ghost, like, we know is set up, so it's like that's
in fact. No, he could just sit there and smile. Hey, go enjoy your bonfire, kid. I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
Much like Pelion.
To answer your question, Will, I think that at the end of the day, the issue with that, with Luke saying like, "There's nothing I could do," I think the only way that Luke says something like that is me being here is actively hurting.
Yeah.
It's the only reason he would reserve himself out of a fight. I don't think he could ever not fight just because he's like, tried it all. Guess I'll go sit here on my island.
Yep.
There's go ahead, Seth.
Oh, I was just going to say Goku does that in Dragon Ball Z.
Well, Luke isn't Goku, Seth.
He is in my heart.
I was about to say, I think Luke totally is the Goku of Star Wars.
Get out of here, man. That's Star Killer. Go
ahead. That's the one from Naruto, right?
One Piece.
Duel.
The last thing I was going to say was, if Luke knew, but it was like a kind of to your point, Connor, where he's like, me taking myself out is the only possible way to get this done. Not I give up, but like me removing myself from the situation, which is kind of what he thought he was doing in The Last Jedi, in the sequels. But what if it's like a sorry to all my Harry Potter heads in the chat, but like a Harry Potter Voldemort situation where it's like he's the last Horcrux search, and I know Horcruxes are a different thing, but like where they're sort of connected situation where he's like, the only way he can come back is if I come back. And honestly, if that's the way it was, he does kind of come back at The Last Jedi, and the next movie,
that's always
back.
been my headcanon, is that Palpatine was waiting for Luke.
Yep.
To get out before because he's like, Luke's the only one who can beat me, so I'll wait.
I mean, you could make the argument too that it's that he comes out because Kylo killed Snoke.
Yeah, I think that's the official answer. Like in the visual dictionary for TLJ, not in the movie, of course.
I think it's kind of. I think it's kind of both, right? Of like Snoke dies and Luke's gone. He's just like, dude, this is the perfect time. Right?
As far as I remember, the official like lore answer is actually that Kylo killing Snoke was him proving that he's the heir to the Sith.
They're the Empire, if you will.
That's like actually in the, if I remember correctly, the Last Jedi visual dictionary, or it might be the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary. I don't remember.
The heir to the Sith sounds like a banger movie, though. To be honest, anyway, there was one thing that we were talking about. And
I remember what I was going to say if I can before I move on. So this whole maybe Palpatine could come back between the movies. This is so stupid. But have you seen this thing that's been floating around about how Thanos visits one guy on his birthday every year?
Yep.
It just tortures him.
Just
like,
makes
what if Palpatine did that?
And not even real torture. It's like he just like kicks him in the shin and like spits in his food. It's
burns his house down.
Yeah, or drops his car off a cliff. Things like that.
What if Palpatine did that and like he maybe accidentally was like, he's playing, like figuring out how to do stuff and showed up to one guy. Like, no one's gonna believe you. And he just does it multiple times.
I think I have that issue. It's so ridiculous, dude. Like, that's funny.
It is ridiculous.
That's why he gets the Octo and cuts himself off from the Forces, so he doesn't get haunted by Palpatine anymore. No, I was gonna say
the Porgs.
I was gonna.
Palpatine's afraid of the Porgs.
What I was gonna say is there is a point in Legends where Luke does get exiled, but it is not necessarily a force exile. It is, and I think this would have been a little bit better, and then it kind of like psychologically get to Luke in the Fate of the Jedi books. Luke is exiled off of Coruscant because of what happened with the Yuuzhan Vong, and he's like, and so he's straight up an outcast, and he's like, you are actively a threat to the Republic, like you gotta go. And so I think it would have been interesting, if, like Goku. I don't know Dragon Ball Z, but I believe you. Anyway, chapter 9.
Yeah, I don't know Naruto either. Chapter 9.
That's the Abeloth books, right?
Yes, I have the first one. Actually, the first 3. Chapter 9. Lando and Iblis are shut down on getting a frigate from Admiral My Name, but with a D, Drayson. Come on, dog. As they leave, Iblis notices security is completely absent and that comms are jammed. They go up to the residential suites for Lando's blaster and find Mara Jade, and they get the jump on her. Surprise, it was Bel Iblis. Mara tells them Imperials are disguised in the palace, and they guess that they're probably going after Leia's twins. I'm not really sure how Lando guesses this, but we'll get into that in a second. Iblis goes to find backup, while Mara and Lando go after Leia and Han to warn them. We switch over to Leia, who is awoken by a voice in a dream. Who could it be? She detects people breaking in using some of her force powers, and she enables the security measures on the door, which awakens Han. Back to Lando and Mara, they make it up the stairs until they reach a landing with some Imperial kind of backstops. Lando is like, actually, I have a better idea. You stay here, and I'm going to go back down to Chewie and get the Falcon, and we can get Leia out of the window. Mara engages with some before Iblis and the guards arrive to help her. Han, Leia, Winter, 3PO, and the twins hide in Winter's room. After strategizing, the Imperials break in abruptly, but Leia just all of a sudden surrenders. Why did she do that? Mara takes a hidden passageway of the Emperor's up 3 levels and gets to Leia. She uses the Force to tell Leia to surrender, while Mara takes out most of them from behind. We switch over a little bit in the future. Han, Lando, and Iblis question the last surviving Imperial who is in critical condition and how they got in. The Imperial Major says it was Mara Jade, and Lando remembers Mara was actually a dancer at Jabba's. We already knew that. Some guards go to arrest her, but Han doesn't believe the Major is being truthful. This is a big old chapter, but it is really, really fun.
It's good. Fun one. Yep.
Yeah.
I love the idea of Palpatine home aloneing people and the in his house. People trying to break into his house. He's using like all the secret passages to Kevin McAllister them. They're like
there's a part later on where there's a brief it's not long after this. Mara's talking to Leia again, and this is on top of that, where Mara is talking a little bit about her backstory, and she says that like Palpatine was flying one of the ships, and the idea of Palpatine flying a ship himself is just funny to me. I'm like,
dude, we have been so on the same wavelength today, Grayson. Because every time you mention something like that, I thought that too.
I was gonna say, I'm like, one of those red guys isn't like flying, or is just like, just hold on,
yeah. I just picture him with his.
This one's called the Holdo maneuver.
I'm gonna punch it. Whee! You know, it's so dumb, dude. There's also another phony moment. I might as well just bring it up now. Sorry if I steal your thunder again, Connor. They talk about how like Jawas are walking around, and like there's like some Jawas in an elevator, and I'm like, why are they here? How are they here? Like, I don't understand. I get
they have a voice too.
No, yeah, I was like, maybe after the New Republic comes in, they're like, hey, we're getting the Jawa, because there's like a whole. I remember with like the lore of like the Ewoks of like, okay, once the Battle of Endor, the Ewoks get off of the moon of Endor, which they do. They end up actually getting across the galaxy, becoming a little bit more civilized. But yeah, there's a part where Leia gets in an elevator, and a group of another group like disguises themselves as Jawas to get into the Imperial Palace, and I was like, how would that work? How does that work?
There's a couple tall Jawas. We see them.
Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah, in when they're letting all the droids out, there's like a couple tall ones when they're at the Luke homestead.
Did they just not have enough like little kids to play Jawas out?
I'm not 100%. It looked like 2 people stacked on top of each other.
That's so funny.
A couple Jawas just. Yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about this chapter other than I really like the perspective switching of like, hey, we've got Mara detecting the break-in, and then it's like when she gets snuck up behind, I was like, oh, it's definitely going to be this person, and then I was like, actually no, it's this person. But then kind of like way later on, getting the reveal that it was Mara who mentally reached out to Leia to be like, you're in danger before she could even get up. I was like, that's really creative. So yeah. Well,
I think my favorite thing from this chapter is kind of like what you said about the perspectives, but this is the first time, and I know Luke's not there, but this is one of the first times throughout these books where like the OT group plus Mara Jade are all on the same wavelength of like being in battle and fighting together, which is really cool. Because like I know Luke's not there, but they all kind of trust her and like exactly. Yes, she's filling in that spot, and like Lando can give Mara direction, and Mara can be like, no, actually, we're gonna do this. And Leia's always being a badass, and Han's. It's like it's very cool how they can all work in sync now because so much throughout this trilogy it's taken so long to get there, but that they're all. This is one of the first times I think scene wise where it really feels like they all trust each other.
You know what it feels like, and there's a literally a part later on. It is actually, in my opinion, a 1-to-1 parallel. I think they did it on purpose. It's like in Bad Batch season 3 when Crosshair finally is like part of the team again, you know, and like, throughout the entire show you're getting this buildup of like, when is he finally gonna get integrated? And like later on when they are going to Tantus, I'm like, this is literally like Crosshair and them, like, we're going back to Tantus, you know. And so I was like, this is a fun little, maybe it was a nod, maybe it was, maybe it was completely unintentional, but it is fun.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yes, Seth.
It definitely feels like in Dark Force when they were escaping, like how that felt like episode 4. This felt like episode 4, where it's just like, dude, this is a bunch of teenagers having fun and taking out the Empire.
I don't know if they're having fun, but
I mean, they get it done.
Leia's like, my babies, and Mara's like, this is great.
Finally, some action.
What happened? Hey,
dude. Oh my gosh!
Never tell me,
guys.
Never tell me the odds. Nobody said anything about odds.
Dude, there is a part later on that's not even a
like Woody with a pull string.
That I actually did the like. Say that again. You know, it's later on. I'm sure Connor probably read it and went, "Oh my god." We'll get to it later.
I guess there really is the last command,
dude. I cannot wait to get to it.
Man, there's Thrawn. So Thrawn, as heir to the Empire, has taken. Wait, hold on. Has allowed the Dark Force Rising to be his last command.
Man, this really is a Star Wars Thrawn trilogy.
This really is a Star Wars.
Chapter 10, we go back to Talon Karrde. Yes! Meeting with smugglers on Trogan, along with good old Sam Gillespie, man of the galaxy. He can't manage to convince all of these smugglers to help the New Republic for information. But lo and behold, some Imperials bust in as the meeting wraps, and all these smugglers. They started blasting. They take care of these Imperials like nothing, but one guy does get killed. They all leave Trogan, and I'm gonna list out some names. There's some names of smugglers. If you're reading, you understand. If you're not, it's not really that important. Mazik, Partah, Dravis, and Klingon, all willing to help. Except one named Brask. Most go to different objectives, but essentially they're trying to track down where the cloning stuff is coming from, kind of what Karrde was doing earlier. And they plan to meet on that Chazwa planet later on. We cut over to Niles Ferrier, who, by the way, was there. Failed to mention that. And he reports to Thrawn, being like, listen, I did it, Thrawn. But he really messes up, because this screws up Thrawn's plan. Having been one of... he was the one to tip off the Imperials on the meeting, which causes the smugglers to pretty much turn on the Empire full force, which is exactly what Thrawn didn't want. So Thrawn's pretty pissed off, but he gives him one final chance, sending Farrier on his way with like a assault ship to give to Karrde as like a gift. And then decides that he wants to plant some evidence to make it look like it was Card's idea to tip off the Imperials, that it was actually Card all along. Thrawn confirms that the Major on Coruscant was indeed lying about Mara Jade's involvement as a spy. We kind of all knew this. This, out of the Card chapters, was the most interesting because I'm like, okay, what's he cooking? But still, and especially because bringing back Niles Ferrier, I was like, oh, that's a fun little twist, little cigar guy. But again, nothing crazy. Felt very, it kind of reminded me in a less cool way of like when Maul brings all of the crime lords together in Clone Wars, but it was just like, here's all these guys you've literally never met.
Yeah. It's this one's fine. It's like I like the stuff with Thrawn and Farrier because I like to see Thrawn really like be an authority. And he really scares Farrier. I don't know how I feel about him letting Farrier go though. Because he's like, man, give me another chance. And Thrawn's like, you're fine. You go out there.
Yeah. They really do like hit home the idea that he's not Darth Vader, though. They bring that up like all the time,
almost too much.
Exactly.
Yeah. By the way, maybe he's not Darth Vader. Yeah, we learned that 2 books ago.
Yeah. Hey, I've seen the movies.
He does bring it up a lot, where he actually even vocalizes it. Where he's like, hey, this doesn't operate the same way as when Vader was here. It's like, okay, man, we get it. You're blue. You do things differently.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if I had to guess, since Zom really likes to play it's like poetry, they rhyme situation, this was in his head probably what it felt like in Empire when all the bounty hunters are all lined up. That's what I got out of this, is just like, because in the theater you're like, oh, who's that guy? Well, actually that's Forlum. Please be respectful. But like at that point, nobody knows who any of those people are. And Boba Fett's the only one that talks. Like,
yeah.
So if these guys were in a movie, everybody would like. Seth,
oh yeah, Boss does talk.
If this was in a movie, Seth would love Partha. That would be his absolute favorite. Like he's like, man, Partha sweeps, Where I'm more of a Dravis guy, right?
Took me a minute to see what you were putting down there, but I like that.
I love you, Forlom.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's all right. Chapter 11. Han makes a plea, tries to plea to this General Bremen guy about Mara, but he ain't having it. Luke shows up. He's off Honegger. And Luke senses that they kind of chat about some stuff, what's going on, and before he senses that Leia is has some shocking feeling. He's not really sure what, and that she is currently visiting Mara. We switch over to Mara, who finally officially hears about the clones, because she was not let in on this information. She was like, nobody told me. And she knows that she knows where the Sparty cloning cylinders are. And of course, reveals a little bit more about her past, which is intriguing. We switch over a little bit in the future with Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, the droids, Lando, and Winter, with the children, all meeting in Leia's office, creating a mission plan. Luke and Leia believe, they are like, hey, we believe Mara, we think this is right. And they decide that they're going to break her out. Lando, Han, Luke, and Mara will find Waylon and the storehouse, while Chewie, Leia, and the baby stay somewhere that isn't revealed yet. But then actually, it's Chewie is also going to come along, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Dude, Mara backstory.
This was great. Yeah, this was probably the best Mara chapter, I think.
It's so good, dude. She's such
Although, to get a negative out of the way first, I was so bummed that Luke just showed up.
Yeah, like patted Han on the back. Hey there.
I'm like, man, I was looking forward to seeing what you were doing on Honegger, man. And then, no, you just he's home.
I will say this book moves the absolute fastest. Where they'll say something like, "Hey, Card is gonna have this meeting on like after all the smugglers on this Chazwa planet, or Luke is on Honegger, or all of this other stuff," and then it kind of like you'll get to another chapter and it's like, "Oh yeah, that already happened, by the way." And I get it.
Sometimes though, that's
okay. You don't need to see everything.
There's like sometimes the book will linger on like Card chatting with his homies in a bar or something. I'm like, okay, let's go. And then I'm like, hey, I can't wait to see what Luke's doing on Honegger. No, he's home.
Yep, he's back.
Nothing consequential happened. The son of Darth Vader being on the planet where that his father saved and his sister is like a deity. No, it's fine. He just had lunch and went home. I'm like, man, what happened there?
Yeah.
Had some PB&J on white. They cut the crust off for him.
That's what I'm getting at. Like I like a lot of what's going on, but maybe well, I'll see when we get to the very end. I'll leave final judgments, but I think this might have been better as a duology. Anyone else?
Connor. Okay, we are on the same wavelength. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I think there was a lot of fluff that they could have cut out here that I think would have made it a nice, succinct, like 1 and 2 book.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
The Mara stuff's great.
Mara stuff's great. That was the chapter, by the way, where she's like, "Oh yeah, my home planet. I don't remember much about it." The only other thing I want to mention is that it was cool. Of like Mara doesn't fully really know why she helped Leia. She just like, and Leia's kind of like, "Is it because you were taken as a kid?" And she's like, "No, that's not it." But it's I don't know. It's this kind of like this influence from the Force of like, I think again the shell is the armor is beginning to peel away. She even says she's like, maybe I'm just getting soft sort of thing. But yes, Seth.
It is cool that like both the Skywalkers are kind of helping Mara in her journey in one way or another. That like, yes, it's been Luke, but even her interacting with Leia here is like, no, that's not it. But like, it's totally moving her in the right direction. So I think it's cool that they're both having a positive influence, and especially since she hated Darth Vader so much that his children, look at this, turning her to the light, just like how they turned him to the light. It's interesting. Those dang Skywalkers.
Well, she's Kylo in before Kylo,
Definitely.
being tempted by the light.
Yeah.
That's such a fun concept.
Yeah.
Like being tempted by, the darkness and the temptations of power. But it's also interesting. The flip side, it's like you've been conditioned to be a bad person, but no, I'm a good person at heart, and you're just forcing me to do this. I think that's cool.
It's a fun thing. I'm a big Red Dead Redemption fan, and that's a big thing in those games is of like bad people who they may not become inherently good people by the end, but it's the show that like you're not just because you do bad things doesn't mean you're bad forever, which is a lot of fun. But chapter 12, the wild card arrives at Bilbringi Imperial Shipyard, the best Star Wars planet of all time. On orders of this guy, the Mazik guy, and I believe this is post the Chazwa meeting. Suddenly, such a funny name. Suddenly, some of Mazik's forces attack part of the shipyard, like one of the unfinished Star Destroyers. But Card is like, "Hey, I'm gonna let him cook." We cut over to Thrawn. He deals with the admiral who failed at protecting the shipyard. Pretty bad. And then this is where we get the Jor-us Sabayoth jump scare, and he enters the bridge and attempts to. He actually does he usurps control of the entire ship, but Thrawn's like, okay, but if you do this, it's like 37 hours to fly there, and like, can you control it the whole time? And do you even know how to use these ships? And blah blah blah. And Jor-us is like, no, and then walks away. And so then they're like, but we will go attack Coruscant.
After stating he wouldn't attack Coruscant earlier in the book, right?
I think at this
point, he had to prep some stuff first.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, again, I don't really know why we get it, but we see that there's these.
Well, they wanted to capture that one planet first, which I assume they did, because they're like, hey, if we do that, then all their fleet's going to go over there, and Coruscant's going to be open for attack.
The opening was like they took all of these planets so they could get support for their clones, and then they were like earlier on they're like, we need to get Ord Mantell, so they get that. Like it's made kind of established. Obviously, I'm not doing a great job in these summaries, but like, and maybe even the book itself doesn't make it abundantly clear, but it's kind of telling you like Thrawn and his forces with these dreadnoughts are really making the advance here. The weirdest thing to me, and we get it a little bit earlier in that chapter with Wedge and Rogue Squadron, that like they have a ton of interdictor cruisers that I just was like I did not think I thought they maybe only had like 3 or 4 of those things, and it's like a crucial part of their strategy where they're essentially they're bringing them in near the planets and then letting them kind of letting the Star Destroyers get really close. But I was like, dang, okay. I don't know if they're just building these ships really fast, because they are also saying that like these books do take, I think, roughly the span of like max 5 months, minimum 3 months. Like they're saying that like multiple months has passed since Heir to the Empire, and like I think they even say that like at one point in the book, like it's 2 months even after they get the dreadnought. So like a lot is happening. We're just not entirely in the thick of it, and there's a lot of moving parts. So, but yeah, this chapter is just a setup chapter.
So before we move on, I have to say it really is a jump scare if you listen to the audiobook here, because Mark Thompson's like, he swiveled in his chair to face the center of the shipyards. In the meantime, Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I'm like, whoa, okay, jeez.
He's in a bathrobe and a shower cap.
I like this interaction, like in a vacuum, I guess, but I'm just like, man, have we not seen this 3 times already?
Yeah, but
like the same scene. And then maybe there's payoff later, but Druis changes his mind like instantly. I don't know if it's at the end of this chapter or the next one.
It is the very next chapter. He's like, actually, psych. But it also, I will say, not to like fully defend, like I get the frustration, but like Pelion describes him like one or two times that like Sabayoth he's like a toddler. He like literally says he calls him like he's
out of his mind.
Don't get me wrong, like he's crazy, and I like that. But like as a reader, I'm like, okay, I get that he's crazy and everything. I get it from a character level, but this is like the 3rd time I've read this scene. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay.
I do think this one does it the best, where Thrawn is like, he's not just like, no, because that is kind of
this is the best one for sure. It is, yeah.
But no,
I think that we get like, it's pretty cool that he does like the almost like a souped up version of Kylo's stasis ability. That like, that's pretty sick. Granted, it only goes so far. That like, yeah, you can like freeze everybody and like control people to a degree, but it's like you don't know how everything works though.
Yeah, and
so
Sabayoth is the master of ego lifting with the Force, where he's just like, he just goes crazy for a second, and then he's like, like he just gets really exhausted all of a sudden. And yeah, I like that Thrawn's like, listen, you can try to do that if you want, but like, you don't know how to operate mine. You don't even know what you have at your disposal right now. Like, let alone you can't hold this up for like how many hours it'll take to get to Coruscant. So again, it is Thrawn being at his best against Sabayoth, but yeah, a lot of times it's just like,
this is just where I thought that like he'll say, hey, let's go to Coruscant, and Thrawn's like, okay, we're gonna do that. And then in the next scene in the following chapter, Sabayoth's like, no, I changed my mind. We're not going to Coruscant. But Thrawn's like, yeah, we're already doing it, so we're just going to do it. And I'm like, what's everybody's goals here? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, I know Sabayoth wants the twins. Okay. And Thrawn's like, was he actually going to go to Coruscant anyway? Like, I know he says that, but did he actually?
It is very strange that how quickly Sabayoth gives up on the twins, because it literally is his entire, I'm not kidding, his entire motive. It's Luke and the twins, or Leia and the twins.
Yeah, right?
And then it's just like, I'm going to go to Wayland.
Which, okay, and to be fair, I'll give this credit. Like, I think the reason why he ultimately decides to go back to Wayland is because he starts to sense the machinations of the mission that like our heroes are going on. And like, that's cool, but he's just so wishy-washy. And again, on a character level, I get that. It's kind of confusing and redundant to read sometimes. That's all. And that's why this first half didn't really hit as hard as the last 2 books for me personally. But that's all I have to say on that. Anyone else? Will, we haven't heard from you in a while.
For me,
you're in this council.
Yeah. But I'm not granted the rank of master.
You are. Congrats.
Hey, cool. Wow. I won't go blow up the galaxy and build a Death Star. And kill all my friends and their children. Please don't. I think I am at the maybe it's bad, but knowing how much fun Sabayoth is at the end of this book, I'm kind of just waiting to get there. And all of this stuff, I'm just like, all right, I get it. Like, you're Sabayoth and you're 100% you. You're an annoying clone Jedi or dark Jedi who's just so like English majory Star Wars villain that towards the end of this book, it's very fun. But for stuff like this and in like exposition conversations, it's really tedious.
Yeah.
And that's honestly just that's my point. I love the back half of this book.
Yeah.
But
I can't wait.
I'm
so
stoked.
much fun.
There's like, I mean, I just like listen. I mean, even down to like the thumbnail of this stream of the cover of like Luke Skywalker. That's him, guys. And and Mara, and I think Mara Jade in like a camo jumpsuit, which I'm like, did you get that from Duck Dynasty? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right here. Here you go.
There you go. Yeah, pull that up. Yeah. It's a dope cover. So I'm just like, It's
really cool.
To be honest, I definitely thought
Duck Dynasty.
I
love how Jorah Oos looks kind of normal in this one versus the other cover.
Yeah, the other ones he looks insane.
Yeah, I definitely, I will say, I think maybe it was my expectations and maybe just what I'm so used to seeing in this. I did think throughout this entire trilogy, and this is just simply becoming untrue, I did think that Wayland and Tantus were going to be more prevalent. And to be honest, they have been just a small fraction of this book.
Yeah.
And I would have liked
I do think that this is building up to the whole, because I mean,
all roads lead to Tantus.
We know just one of the few things I knew about this book was obviously this last thing that's going to happen here. Not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it yet, but like this is building well to that. Yes. And I'm excited to see how that actually plays out, because I know nothing other than just the players in the game, basically. And so I'm very excited to see how that comes about.
Yep.
But
I agree.
All right.
We are
chapter 13.
We are almost at the end of our coverage. Chapter 13. Luke sneaks in 10 Nogri as Jawas into the Imperial Palace to protect Leia. That was the grand idea. They're going to call in the Nogri to protect her, while the rest of them go try to find the Sparty cylinders on Wayland. They break out Mara, and they all make it to the Falcon, including Chewie, and head off to the Abroa Sky system as a starting point, because that's where she remembers Palpatine taking her prior. From there, she can hopefully figure it out. The Chimera preps the assault team for Coruscant. Sabaoth changes his mind, says he wants to go to Wayland. Just has a feeling, I think. Thrawn detaches a ship with a new crew to swap out at Wayland along with Jorah Oos.
See, this is where your Jawas in the elevator was foreshadowing. See?
No, the Jawas in the elevator is after. This is later.
Oh, it's after?
This is the first time the Jawas things happen, and then it happens again, and I went, okay. I just remember thinking that, and I was like, I'm like, that. I guess the Jawas are just getting around at this point, but yeah, no, it's just
fine.
Fun setup.
Chapter 14. Moving on. Chapter 14.
Perfect. Almost there. A little bit of
you know what? Why don't we? Hey, wait, Grayson, because I know that you didn't finish chapter 15 because you were bad.
Sure.
And you didn't. You just want to end with 14?
Hey,
so I want you in the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I read half of it as we were setting up the stream.
Chat. Well, it's like a Talon card chapter anyway. Let's just save it for the beginning of the next one.
Chat. Sound off. Connor, let me know what people say. People are probably gonna be fine.
Yeah, let us know. But I think that we can end this off on a banger, because 14's great and it's long great. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then we'll just start with 15 through what? What's the last? How many chapters are in this
29.
book? Is it like 31? 29. There you go.
Yep.
15 through 29 next time.
All right, chapter 14. Coruscant is attacked by a mass of Imperial ships, dreadnoughts, Star Destroyers, probably Victory-class Star Destroyers too, interdictors. It's crazy. Leia rushes to the war room, assigning Ghent, remember the Slicer guy? He's still there, to the kind of tech team, the Geek Squad from Best Buy, and finds Garm to try to lead the counterattack, but Garm is like, listen, until Mon Mothma can personally give permission to do this, like I can't really do it. But Mon Mothma's like, listen, we can set aside our differences. You are the best for this. It basically surmised that she doesn't want to let other people's lives be in other people's hands, because she'd rather it be on her, which is respectable. But Garm gets to work. Thrawn recognizes that they've switched tacticians and preps his new siege weapon. Some invisible things launch from the Imperial ship's tractor beam, and one of them hits a frigate. Iblis uses an ion cannon to disable the cloaking on at least that first one and reveals that it's an asteroid. I believe Thrawn destroys it. It was kind of unclear in the chapter. But anyway, they keep a ton of these other destroyers keep shooting, and they only shoot 22 in total, invisible asteroids. But they actually kind of dry fire a bunch of the other ones to kind of psych them out, to kind of make it seem like, hey, there's a ton orbiting this planet. And they dip out. They pretty much knock Coruscant out of commission because asteroids orbiting a planet is not good for ships leaving.
Dude, this was cool.
Really cool.
It's creative.
Very creative. Unexpected. The New Republic discover this, but they really don't know how many in total there are, and they realize that some of them could be faked. And I think it's like they surmise that it was like 287 fires. So there could be at least 287 asteroids out there. They don't know that though. But one of the colonels comes in and detects that Mara has escaped. And Leia kind of weirdly reveals that they did escape to Wayland. And they intentionally freed Mara. And
she did 35 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Gint gives Leia a decrypt code for Delta Source's transmitter. Okay. The first thing I have to mention about this, I honestly was very frustrated at the end when Leia, Mara and them leave, and then immediately, the whole plan behind this and why they do this in secrecy is so that Delta Source doesn't figure out, okay? Within like, literally 24 hours. Maybe they say it was like it's nighttime. So like earlier in the night, they've already left, and then Leia's like, "Okay, guys, it was actually us." And I'm like, and she's like, because she's like, now I can trust them. And I was like, the whole point why you hid it was so that because you didn't know who in the like what Delta Source was, who Delta Source was. Like they go through all these countermeasures of why they do it in Leia's office. And I do have a speculation on who Delta Source is, but there is something earlier with, I think in this chapter with Thrawn, where he's like, Wayland isn't a concern. Like they seem to be fine. Like they don't know that they're going to find it.
Yeah.
But this like just kind of shoots them in the foot where I'm like, okay, they're definitely going to figure out now. I'm like, you didn't give it enough of a head start. And that, I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know who Delta Source is, but I'm like, it kind of came across as making Leia look kind of unintelligent. And I was like,
yeah.
Because I think she's been great in this book. But like that, I was like, I just don't get it.
Grayson, Wonder Twins power activate, because I thought the exact same thing again. I thought this chapter was awesome. And then we get to that moment. I'm like, Leia, what are you doing? Like, just let them investigate and all that stuff. I thought that was crazy. Maybe it's explained later, but
I would also like to say I was 100% certain. Now I'm like 80% certain that Winter
of who Delta Force is, you mean?
Yeah. I think Delta Source is Winter.
Is Winter?
I think so.
Man, that'd be a twist. I don't know. I thought it was Bel Iblis for a while. See, these two have read it, and they're like, yeah, we'll find out.
Because it's also, they don't make it clear. They do say earlier on of like Delta Source might be like just a listening device, because they've got like, it's like a transponder from the Imperial Palace.
Yeah. And somebody had to have planted it, right?
Right, yeah.
So there's that too.
I don't know. I just was like, I kind of wish that if Leia had revealed it, it would have been like a little bit more of a passage of time. Like, I think that would have been fine.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, okay, it's been a couple days. You know, because a couple days especially in the Star Wars galaxy, is a really good head start because of how long it takes to get to some of these planets. But I was like, what would have been the holdup? Like, if you had just waited a little bit longer? I don't know.
But hey, you know what? On a high note, though, the whole invisible asteroid thing, this is Zahn's strength, in my opinion. This is where he shines the most in these books, is when he gets real creative with the battle plans and the physics and stuff, because he's real smart with that. That's where That's where he really shines. This was so cool because when they were doing the stuff with the asteroids in the last one, I thought maybe it was a diversion for Sabaoth. I'm like, is this to like confuse him? Like, I don't, what is he doing here? I was really curious where that was going to go. And then when they said the impact, I still didn't get it because like there's that moment where I think Bel Iblis is like, did they say that they had an impact that wasn't from a turbo laser? And then it clicks. I'm like, oh man,
Just throw rocks at him.
he's throwing rocks at him. That's sick. What a cool idea. And like that great line at the end where he's like, for the moment, Coruscant's out of the war. It's like, oh shoot, okay, things just got really real for the New Republic
because they won't leave because they could hit an asteroid at any point.
Yeah,
really,
that
really
is
cool.
I was like, as soon as they said like they were launching, and I thought about the asteroids, I was like, he's just putting cloaking devices on giant space rocks. I was like, that sounds so stupid in concept, but that's so awesome. Like, I love that.
It's so great. I love it. So that was a definite highlight in this first half for me because I was like, man, okay. I like it when we talked about this during Dark Force Rising, but it's tough to write Thrawn because I'd imagine it's tough because he's got to be the smart guy, and so, but you as the writer also have to be the smart guy if you're going to make him sound smart. And there are times where he does have as we've been joking, like well, actually, Pelion. But then there are moments like this where no, this guy is cooking up some good ideas. Like this is the kind of stuff you need, right? This creative, masterminding. It's really neat.
Even down to like the subtle thing, and I mean, it makes sense of him being able to tell when I think it's Drayson is the one that's like leading it, and then when Bel Iblis comes in, he's just like, yeah, they just switched leadership, like because of the way they're like retreating towards the like to get closer to the planet for the planetary surface weapons. I was like, that's such a cool little detail, dude. Like, of course Thrawn would be able to detect that,
Yeah.
Battle tactician.
By the way, all the homies at home are saying end on 15 or 14. Sorry.
Bring these up.
Yeah. Josh says end on 14. Jojo says works for you. Gabby was also part of the Scoundrels Club and didn't finish this like Grayson. So yeah. 15 was a bit of a slug. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I have, speaking of scoundrels, I have to mention the line at the end of, I believe, chapter 13. Yeah, it's the end of chapter 13. Give me 1 second. I just need to read it out to you all. Wait. Oh no.
What do you think has the best cover? While Grayson's looking for this, which one has the best cover? I don't have the other one sitting by me, but which one?
I like Air.
Air's really iconic.
Yeah.
I do like this one a lot, though.
I just don't like that this is clearly just a screenshot from Return of the Jedi, and then everything else around it's
just
not
like traced.
Yes. And then everything.
Is it? I don't know.
She's totally, yes. That's when they're listening to 3PO tell the Ewoks. I can find that frame in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
I love Luke's little pose here too, where he's like, "Yar," with his lightsaber.
Oh my gosh.
He's just holding it so close to his chest. I'm like, what are you doing?
He's fighting like Palpatine.
Look
at the drip on these guys. We could do a whole
the anti-drip. Like these homies down here at the bottom.
I've got it, guys. Hold on. There it is. No, it's almost there. Hold on.
Let's go, Grayson.
Guys, it's so
You
funny.
read one less chapter than all of us.
Okay, I got it. I had to look through my highlights. All right. Mara looked over at Skywalker, and the only one of them who really trusted her was the man she had to kill. Your first command since you resigned your commission, Han, Skywalker commented into the silence. Yeah, Solo said tightly. Let's just hope it's not my last.
What? What's wrong with that? What?
Oh my. Your first command since you resigned your commission, Han, Skywalker commented into the silence. Solo said tightly. Let's just not hope it's my last. Bro!
Gotcha.
Come on, dog.
Say it again.
Maybe,
wait,
but hold on. But maybe that is where it got the title that we've all been like, oh, I wonder what this is all about. And the last command is actually Han Solo.
And then Han Solo dies at the end.
Yep.
Maybe, I don't know what happens at the end of this book.
No,
Han Solo's he did nothing and then died. Isn't that crazy?
It's just like, it is like The Force Awakens.
Wow.
That whole ending thing just gave me such like, what are we, some kind of Suicide Squad vibe? Like yeah, but I'm just ragging on it. It's just kind of funny. I do think if that was like that moment was in a movie, and like, like it would have been like if Rey was just like, maybe I've fallen, Master Skywalker, and Luke's like, no, Rey. Rise of Skywalker, you know, like that would have been like, that's what this feels like, and people would have dogged on that.
The Force awakened in you, Rey. You are now the last Jedi, and you must rise. That's the.
We should make that a challenge at some point, maybe like May 4th or something, where we have to go through each of the movies and figure out where we could put the titles of the actual movie.
Oh, there you go. That's fun.
Yeah.
The only one that would already exist is Solo.
Yeah.
Well,
Solo.
Yeah.
I mean,
a Star Wars story.
The Yoda, the Yoda line in Attack of the Clones, you know, the begun the Clone Wars has.
Begun the Attack of the Clones has.
Yeah, exactly. Something along that. Like, I hope we can survive the Attack of the Clones.
That's so good.
Will, what is your thoughts on this first half? Are you pretty just hyped to get into the second half?
Yeah, I'm so stoked to get in the second half. I mean, it's like this is the part where we're on Endor and Return of the Jedi.
Right.
It's like this is fun, but like,
do you, you know, since you've been rereading it, and so have you.
Respect.
I guess they do say Rogue One in it as well. But like going back through this thus far, I know we're not at the very end. Like, do you think, like, you agree with what Connor said that like this maybe could have been cut down to like a duology and been a little bit more like powerful?
Yeah. I think you could have fit most of this into like a season of an animated series, like the entire 3 books.
Yeah.
Like that's one season, and I don't even mean like a Clone Wars season where there's like over 20 episodes. I mean like a Bad Batch where there's like 9 or 10.
I was about to say, yeah, this feels like Clone Wars season 7, where it's like, other than maybe the Bad Batch episodes or like the Martez sister episodes, but at least those are, I guess, kind of quintessential to us getting Ahsoka. But like this is like 12 episodes, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, really, even 10, like you said, of like, I think you could.
It's 3 movies. That's what it is. Like it's taking this as an adapted screenplay. I think this would hit really hard and be really tight.
I think even like the card stuff would have been more interesting. Like, you know, like when they're on that planet with like the water bowl thing, or like I don't remember what it's called. Like that scene would have been really cool, even if you don't inherently care about these characters. I just think when it like with some of these chapters, when you're building up and you're going back to a card chapter, it's like it just kind of reads a little slow, and you're like, man, I really want to get back to Mara and Luke. Like that's what I'm all in on. I'm like, okay, they are going after Wayland. This is what I want, you know?
Yep. Hello, Seth.
So, I feel like when a lot of people talk about, oh man, these books are awesome, it's this book that like it's just little pieces of the other 2, but it's most of the stuff that's happening here. So I just wanted to throw out there where I'm like, I think it could have easily been 2, but at the same time, like Star Wars kind of comes in 3s.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be. It had to be a trilogy.
You kind of have to do that, but at the same time, if I'm being honest with myself, that like everyone talks about how awesome these books are. I think that they're really focusing on the back half of this book, and then a little bit of Heir to the Empire and not much of Dark Force.
Yeah, and it's specifically the Luke and Thrawn stuff. Like, let's be like those 2. Whenever Luke comes in and when Thrawn comes in, I'm always locked in. You know.
Yeah, Jade, don't forget about that.
Of course.
Will.
Just because Andor's on the brain, and the way that they're releasing those is 3 episodes at a time for season 2. That might be a fun way for them to do this if they were ever to do it in a live action TV series, which I know they would never do. But if it was to happen, like 3 episodes at a time, live action, like Connor said, it's 3 movies. That's how Andor's going to be. So maybe that's a format for this decade.
Yeah,
that'd be sick.
Yeah,
that'd
3
cool.
episodes covers a month or whatever. But any final thoughts from the comments or from y'all?
Just stoked about getting to the back half. That's all.
Yep.
I know I had critiques about this one, but it was still really fun. You know, still had fun reading it. Still had fun with all the characters, and I'm excited to see the back half.
Yeah, me too. I'm so pumped. Well, Will, you've been less quiet. Do you wanna drop the tease that we might have going on?
Yeah, a tease where we give no information, but we just tell them that tomorrow we're going to be giving out information. Yeah, if you want to. How should I put this? If you like these 3 books and you like Legends and you like Legends characters, then the announcement that Grayson and I will be putting on tomorrow is for you and those people who like the EU and Legends characters specifically.
That's exciting. I don't even know what this is.
Yeah.
Can I, after the show, can we get told what this is, or do we have to wait?
We'll see. I'll say this: you like Legends, you like Star Wars, you like conventions. Stay tuned on Instagram tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Hello. Okay.
What?
Hello. What?
Okay. Huh?
But with that said,
was that the last command?
Luke will be at Star Wars Celebration Japan.
Yeah, we're actually gonna. No, kidding.
Yeah, Luke.
Connor, how do we? Well, actually, I also realized halfway through I'm not streaming to my channel. Technical difficulties. So yeah, let y'all into the stream here.
All right, Will, you know what to do. Ready? Well, here, Grayson, you sound us off. You do the line.
Okay.
Do it. Thank you everybody for being here, by the way. You guys are great.
Bye.
And remember, if it is not in our archives, it simply does not exist.
See ya.
Bye.
Will.